Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brad Chapman's Radical Vocal Coach podcast. We are here today with Khaliq, who we're going to talk about in a moment here, but I want you to know why he's here. He's a great man, known him for a long time, knows the business extremely well, and that's why he's here. I just want to kind of mention, this is for singers. You know, we're emphasizing this podcast for singers. Someone else is recording, no problem. And that's why we're on Fireplace, so that we have good quality, high fidelity audio. And you'll notice I've got some reverb on my mic, and Khaliq and I are going to talk about that in a moment. Also, I have developed a new program. Frank Green and I, the producer, went over it last podcast, if you kind of want to see a demonstration of it, where people can buy it and learn how to use the phrasing of any artist they want to learn from, and do it in a way that is done quickly and accurately, and that they can coach themselves and do it without having to worry about being too far off. I'm not going to talk about this a lot because I've talked about it before. I don't have any vocal technique programs, and that is because you need a seeing eye dog when you do a vocal technique lesson. You cannot decide that, oh, you did the la, la, la right. You don't know. You're not a teacher. You need a coach. So that's why I don't do that. But anyway, so that's available on my webpage, and the podcasts are all available on my webpage. And there is, this is going to be number 12. There is a tremendous amount of information, which is absolutely fantastic. Every podcast seems to somehow or another go into another direction that none of the others have gone in. And wow, it's great to have that. I will be chopping them up. So we'll get that out for you. I'm a vocal coach. That's what I do. I'm here for singers. I'm here in this podcast for singers. Khaliq and I met many years ago on Google Hangouts, and I've spoken with many people like him, and we've had great conversations about singers and recording and what singers should do for getting prepared for singers, for recording, but I want you to hear it from him instead of me. So sometimes you'll hear me act like I don't know what I'm talking about to kind of put Khaliq on the spot, so that it's like he's listening to someone who doesn't know.
I was going to do that to you.
Well, you will. I know you will. I'm just preparing for you.
Yeah, right.
So let's just go ahead and talk about this real quick, get it out of the way. So you hear that I'm on reverb. And you notice that quite often broadcasters don't do that. And it's because, here I'm going to turn it off. It's a little cleaner sound for broadcasting. But the reason I have some reverb on here is because I want to be a good example. And singers, I believe, need reverb. Now, here's my question to you, Khaliq. We'll get into your credentials so that people will know that you know what you're talking about. How did reverb get invented? What was the history of that?
We're going into a history lesson.
Well, in other words, let's just do a myth bust here really quick. So I remember many years ago hearing somebody say, oh, reverb's for singers who can't sing because it makes them sound good.
No. Well, first of all, everything basically that has been done within music and most things is based on trying to simulate what happens in our natural analog world, So things like reverb came along because naturally when people are talking, singing out normally, there's usually some kind of environment that has your voice. And then once people figured out how to capture that electronically, they noticed that it didn't always, capture the same feeling surrounding what's going on with the voice. Now, reverb and things like that get definitely abused if you don't know the proper way to use it, why you're putting reverb on. A lot of people just use that as it's a blanket term and just a catch-all solution. And that's really not the way to think about things like reverb. Like, for example, when I'm listening to the reverb that you had on your voice, for me, it's the wrong type of reverb if you were going to use it, because you have to figure out what do you want the reverb to accomplish. Everything is trying to simulate what is going on. So for you, and you're speaking in a small environment in a room, the reverb that you have to have on there needs to have that type of texture where it sounds like it almost becomes invisible because it sounds like a room. When you walk into a room and start talking, you don't immediately notice, oh, this is a reverby room, unless it's just just when you're walking into a normal room and you just start talking to your friends, family, or whatever, you don't think about anything like that because you're surrounded by all this ambience, and it's just part of how we naturally expect things to sound. So when you put a reverb on and it's just reverb, it's not the right type, you have to think about it. Did you choose a hall? Did you choose a plate? Did you choose a room? Does it have early reflections? Is it long? Does it have a tail? Does it get out the way? Is it dark? Is it bright? Does it, what's the sound doing? How is that room reacting? Now, for somebody like yourself, and you're sitting here and you want to be on a podcast, there's some podcasters that put reverb on their voice, but it might be so subtle, it just adds an expansion to the voice because it's simulating the room, like how when you walk into one room and then you go into another room. If you just keep talking, try this yourself, in fact, y'all, as singers. Just talk and sing and sing. You've probably done this, but walk from room to room to room in your house and listen to the sound of the room instead of the sound of your voice, but you'll start hearing how it dramatically changes the sound of your voice. So reverb can enhance or it can distract depending on whether you know what is the goal you're going for with adding that reverb. I know I went off kind of on a tangent on that.
Thank you. This is what we need from you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
That's
exactly
definitely why.
and we're going to talk about your 5 tips and how I read that and why I thought that was extremely important. In fact, I put this here so everybody could see it. So here's Khaliq's 5. I've got to share the screen. Hold on just a moment. Okay. So here's Khaliq's top 5 tips for mixing female vocals. Now, as I was reading through this, what I really liked, and you kind of just went across the board with that, what kind of reverb and why. Now, what I want to help singers to do, and I think the ones who want to do really well want to do before they come into your studio, is how much can we give you organically so that you can maximize what you do electronically? Does that make sense to ask it that way?
Not sure what you're getting at. And I just want to comment, Natasha, you got a great mic, but we heard your that girl's thirsty. Got to put you on the spot there. But
well, when you're vocal training, you have to drink lots of water. So there's lots of bottles of Evian in here.
Yeah, you can mute that
hydrated.
until the Q&A. Yeah. Yes, stay hydrated.
Okay, could you repeat that again for me?
Okay, so
I'm not quite sure.
What as singers, what can we do? Like, okay, I read how you use the different reverbs and the different ways that you accent the emotions and so forth, all the different effects that you use on the female vocalist. What can the female vocalist bring? Now, I know you're going to use de-esters. I know there's really no way around some of that stuff, but what can the female singer or any singer do to maximize the organic performance so that you can maximize your electronic reproduction of it? And that's the kind of question that came to my mind as I was reading how you deal with us after you have our organic recording on your system. Okay,
that's a very good question, and the way I like to think about things like this is, I'm old school. I got taught long before computers and all these things were part of our toolkit, and one of the basic things that I was taught from the very beginning, and I'm so glad to have gone through this, and a lot of people overlook it. It seems so simple, but there was a phrase I was taught, and it's called record to mix. And the bottom line is basically capture your sound on the front end so that you don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff on the back end. Now, let me explain deeper on that. For example, like you were saying, things like you have to use de-essers and things like that. De-essers came along to solve a problem, but what you have to realize is, like, before de-essers were invented, that wasn't a problem in many cases, because the guys, the old school guys that knew how to record, they knew how to listen to a vocalist right away in the room. The very first thing that I would do, I don't record anymore, I mix pretty much exclusively, but when I was recording and everything and working with some of the best singers in the world and things like that, the first thing I would do before thinking about grabbing any kind of equipment, putting them in front of anything, is I would walk into the room and listen to their voice and hear, make all kinds of mental notes of what do they have going on. You know, so if I'm hearing something like sibilants, they've got a real high, thin voice, and there's a lot of S's and things going on like that. I'm listening right to hear what's going on with their voice before I record anything, you know, or if it's already pre-recorded, now it's time for me to mix it. It's already on the thing. First thing I do is go and listen to it, solo the track, and hear just what's going on with the quality of the voice all by itself. What makes up that voice, you know, or the is there where do the breaks happen? Uh-oh, somebody.
Oh, may I just
somebody come?
My
Okay. Well, came on. Okay. There's no way to automatically have their mics muted, huh? When they come
well,
in.
they can mute them. Maya, can you wait till the Q&A? We'll get you. Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, when I listen to, whether it's first time recording, now I'll stick with that scenario, and I walk into the room and I listen to the singer, listen to the tone of their voice, especially like with female vocalists, because a female vocalist, well, men too, but more so with female vocalists, why I put that in is because they can have a very broad range. You know, we think of female vocals as being kind of higher and all that naturally, but some females can get down very low, right there with the best and lowest of the men, unless you're down with Barry White and people like that, you know. But I'll listen to the quality. I want to hear head tones. I want to hear chest tones. I want to see if I'm hearing sibilants. I want to see if there's a mid-range you know, like a focus in there where their voice might sound very clear and piercing, but maybe a little light on the bottom part of their voice, you know. So I'm thinking, you know, does that part kind of need to be filled in? Or if I'm hearing that maybe they're a little soft sounding, or maybe they're a little hard and harsh, or maybe they're excited. All of that I'm thinking and making mental notes so that I can approach it on the front end to record, to mix, capture it on the front end. So right away I'm start thinking, what kind of microphone will either enhance or tamp down that problem? If they're a very bright singer, I want to probably not get a mic that's going to enhance all that. This is one of the reasons why a great example that everybody heard about Michael Jackson using an Shure SM7B, because it's a dynamic mic. It adds a little bit of thickness and resonance. It's a little darker and everything, but it complements his voice, because all the stuff that he has in his voice naturally and everything, that mic balances his sound and texture out, so that
he's
they
a
work
countertenor.
together.
He's called a countertenor. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, those things are important. So with a master, a guy like Bruce Weedine, who used to get it, they'd have all the best mics in the world and everything's super sensitive, you know, could have put him on, you know, like when we were doing on We Are the World, for example, when you guys see the video, he's on, I think, a C12 or something like that. Humberto used a C12. But, you know, when he, you know, sometimes those kind of microphones can be too sensitive, be too clear. You know, they might enhance some of that other thing that's going on up there in that high end of their voice. And sometimes you want that for a song like We Are the World. When we were doing it, you kind of want that. He's singing a little more delicately and all that. So that kind of a mic works good. But when you get into a song that's got a lot of rhythm, and you got a guy like him that's doing rhythm in the room, doing mouth percussion, dancing, moving around and everything. That's why Bruce Sweeting chose a mic that was, a fraction of the cost, a lot less sensitive, but it was the perfect tool to capture on the front end. So by the time it came around to mix and everything, then all you got to do is very little to make it slot right in, because the capture was very close to what it needs. You're not solving problems on the back end. So that's a big part of the way I think about things. If I'm hearing
that's
a singer,
great. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
That's a great segue into the fact that many of the singers I work with, I tell them they've got to be moving while they sing. They can't just be standing there. If you guys forced Michael to just stand like a choir singer in a church and not move, not a Baptist church, in the other kind of choir where he can't move, he just got to be relaxed and just sing, just totally destroy his style.
Yeah.
Contemporary music, you got to be moving. And so the fact that you guys dealt with that instead of just telling him, "Oh no, Michael, you got to do this." No, you caught what he is, and that's fantastic, Khaliq. I really appreciate it.
Well, I mean, it really makes a big difference in the subtleties of what can be done later on, and it makes life a lot easier. One of the reasons why people get into all this extra micro stuff about vocals is a lot of times they don't know that it's probably a lot simpler than they think by simply matching up the things, So it goes beyond just the mic. It goes into what kind of microphone preamp are you going through? How's that going to complement or tamp down some things? Are you going through some compressors and everything, different styles of compressors? There's, very different styles that attack things differently. FET compressor is very different than a VCA compressor, than a tube compressor, they all got different ways of taming the voice, and that paired along with the microphone preamp that it goes. A Neve preamp is going to sound very different than running through the SSL or running through the different ones that are out there, a separate outboard. They all got different things that they may do, and you have to mentally kind of know what's going to match up. So the one good thing that I learned when I was in the studio working at Lionshare Studios is we had a mic locker and equipment racks that we could do all kinds of combinations, and after a while, once you learn kind of the sound of what something is, you can match things up in your mind really quickly. So now today, the equivalent of that is plugins. A lot of people buy plugins and they use presets. And presets are good starting places and everything, but you got to remember, whoever made that preset is basing it on one snapshot scenario that they're dealing with, and that's a good thing. Sometimes it'll get you close as a starting point, but the biggest thing that you can do as the biggest favor is learn what is the sound of that plugin. Where is that plugin sweet spots? Even though they're digital, plugins have a sweet spot just like hardware units do. So you got to learn, where does it bloom? Where does it make the sound just come together within the chain of the way you stack things up? And especially for vocals, because it's such an organic instrument, there's a lot of things that are happening. People breathe differently. When they do phrases, they suck in the air differently. And, there's times when you might want to blend some old school with new school rather than just capturing that one digital snapshot. Many times I'll use tape machine plugins to put on what I know tape does to sound, as far as gluing things together, kind of keeping the dynamic range in a certain area. I might want to capture that on the front end, just like I did back in the day before plugins existed, so that I can imprint that on the capture, and then later on it has that characteristic that I need. Does that help?
Excellent. So, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Oh, so let's go backwards a little bit. I haven't truly introduced you, so I've got your bio up. If those of you who didn't take the time to read it on FarPlay, I'm going to share the screen here and just go over it real quick because it's quite incredible. So I don't know if you can read this, so I'll just read it out loud. Glover started his career in 1982. He began working as a recording and mixing engineer. That's a long time, Khaliq. Khaliq worked for Lion Shares under Kenny Rogers. So he owned it? Is that the story without going too far into it?
Kenny Rogers, the country music star, owned he created Lion Share Studios. He bought it. I think it used to be ABC Dunhill or something like that. And then somebody else had bought it, and then Kenny bought it and took it over.
And
Later on, Babyface bought it. Yeah, but it was one of the top 5 studios in the world at the time. I was very, very lucky to get that gig. It was accidental.
Yeah, I was there in the 80s. It's a beautiful place. Okay, then he joined Wings West Studios, where Khaliq worked under Jeffrey Osborne. Now, did Jeffrey Osborne own the studio too?
Yeah, that was Jeffrey's home studio. I worked with Jeffrey at Lion Share many times, and we just got along well. He liked my work ethic, and when I decided to go independent in '86, I guess it was somewhere around that time, and I left Lion Share. He had just built his studio based off of Lion Share. He had the same designer come in because he loved studio being Lion Share, so he had Wings West built almost exactly like it, and he had an API console in there, which I loved, and then I went to work with him for many, many years.
Yeah, Jeffrey Osborne came to our studio as well when I was with Seth Riggs.
Yeah.
And then Dave Hampton
used to always come out.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I said Seth used to always come out there too, as well with Jeffrey.
Yeah. Seth's a great guy. Anyway. Okay, so, and then Dave Hampton, I know Dave. I don't know what Matt Corporation was.
That's M-A. That's his corporation. It stands for Me and the Kids. MATK.
Okay.
So
you're engineering consultants, is that?
Well, me and Dave have been, we've been best friends since then, around that time too. And pretty much once we hooked up, if you saw Dave, you saw me, or if you saw me, you saw Dave. That's how we were for many, many years. So we were both on a lot of the same projects, or got each other on the different projects. I got him on Michael Jackson. He got me in on Justin Timberlake and Prince and stuff like that.
What a nice man.
Yeah, that's my boy.
So Hancock Music, what was that? No, he said ColecoVision Music.
That's Herbie Hancock's studio.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I think we were in Hancock Park, Seth Studios. So
that's Herbie Hancock's studio at his house. I worked with him for several years too.
Oh no, that was Chick Corea. Never mind. Okay, and those 2 years of that, and then Prince. And that must have been quite a trip. And I know you talked about his death. That was tough on you, really tough on you.
Yeah. It was very much a surprise. It was really tough on Dave too, because we all got a chance to interact with him in different ways and everything, and but him and Dave became very, very close. So it was very, very, very tough on Dave. Nobody expected it, and a lot of the other people, it just came so much out of the blue.
Yeah, well, I don't know much about it, but I hope you didn't suffer. I guess if you do know a long time before it's going to happen, sometimes there's suffering. So
yeah.
Just being a little bit empathic there, just to say, hope you didn't suffer. So now going back to what you were talking about. All these different singers, okay, so here in this list, Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, Diana Ross. I mean, if you go through these singers in your mind, you can just hear all kinds of different styles. John Mayer, my gosh, Christina Aguilera, boy, are they different. Justin Timberlake, extremely different. I don't know Brian Eno. What is
Brian
his
Eno is a producer.
Oh,
He's a producer. He's from what was his? I think it was Talking Heads. I think was his group, but I can't remember. I'm getting old, man, so I can't remember and pull all this stuff in sometimes. But
you're not supposed to tell us that, Khaliq.
No, that's all right.
Then
I
I'll
feel
look
great,
old.
and every day above ground is good.
That's for sure. And then you got Smokey Robinson, again, a little bit more like Michael, it's a countertenor, so you got a lot of high wispy, and he's, people accused him of falsetto, but it wasn't really falsetto. But falsetto is we won't get too far into that, but that's a subjective word. It means false voice. So you could accuse anybody of that. What's a false voice? Okay.
Yeah.
It isn't really a biological term.
Right.
It can be said that it's an extremely hollow sound, and I've seen it on an oscilloscope. It's basically a sine wave. So it's lacking square and sawtooth. So it's like it's like those tone generators, right?
Yeah.
So there's not much to it, and so Smokey was very light. Tears of a cloud, but it wasn't like falsetto, where in the ultimate color would be tears of a clown. We wasn't doing that.
Right.
So again, another challenge for you, Jeffrey Osborne. We know he keeps out like crazy. B2K, is that somebody more current or?
No, that was a young group. That was back in the old boy band days.
Oh, okay.
That was a little, younger group that they had a modicum of success.
And Narda Michael Walden.
Yep.
Narda Michael Walden.
Yeah, Narda Michael Walden. Yep. I used to love him from back in the days when he was with John McLaughlin and all those guys doing all that, just some crazy progressive jazz stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So he sang with them, or was an instrumentalist?
No, he was a drummer, but he's a producer as well. But yeah, he was an amazing drummer, and then he went on to be a big producer. He's the one that produced Aretha Franklin's "Freeway of Love" and Shawnee's. He did "I Love Your Smile" and a bunch of other stuff like that. As far as some of his pop productions, with big hits.
Fantastic. Kenny Lattimore, not familiar with that.
He's an R&B singer and everything. He's very great singer too. I was with Kenny Lattimore. Interesting. I was working with Kenny Lattimore at the time. I'm going on the road with him. I was doing live sound, which, quite frankly, I suck at. But every now and then I got it good. Yeah, I just determined that I tried it and everything went out there. But I worked for him pretty good, and he liked it. But we went to New York. We were supposed to play at the Apollo Theater on 9/11, 2001.
Oh my gosh.
I'm waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and I turn on the news and I look out on the news, and then I had a corner window in my hotel room, and I looked out and saw all these flames coming up from the World Trade Center right out my room and everything, looking on the news, then being there watching it. Then suddenly, I was telling everybody, y'all seeing what's going on? And then we saw the second plane go in, and it was a trip. And we were stuck in New York. They shut down everything, and we couldn't figure out how to get back to L.A. Finally, we ended up getting a limo to drive us across the country for 3 days. The whole band and everything. There was a lot of different people that were up there then. We were trying to get on other people's tour buses and everything. Nobody was having it. So we finally ended up going 3 days back. But yeah, I was right there seeing that right at the moment. So
people love those stories. What a colorful life.
Man,
For people who don't know about Thelonious Monk, what an artist. I've heard jazz people talk about him like more than a god. What was your involvement with him?
No, I didn't work with them. Yeah, I just worked when I was working with Herbie Hancock. Herbie is like he was one of the head on the advisory committee for the Thelonious Monk Institute. So we would do things with their students and stuff like that, because Herbie was sponsoring things like that. So that's the only way with that. But we don't have to go through all that, because a lot of those things are just kind of side stuff,
I do want you to repeat a story, though, that you told me about. She's along the same kind of vocalist as Aretha Franklin. She's a coloratura
Patti
saying
LaBelle,
Lady
Shaka
Gaga.
Patti LaBelle, yeah.
Patti LaBelle, thank you.
Yeah.
How you had to record her one day. She walked in and what you had to do because of the way she was singing. I don't know if you remember the story, but you turned on the just to remind you, you turned on you always bring in compression. I mean, it's just whether we go into that area or not. She told you to turn it off, as I recall.
Yeah. Patti LaBelle and all those old school singers that are really good, they know how to control, because like I said, before a lot of these things existed, you had to do it with your performance. So, that's what is really, that really is a secret sauce that is being lost. Everybody relies on the equipment to control them, but they learned how to do it, like I said, at the source, record to mix. And so, working with somebody powerful, like when I was recording Patti LaBelle, I had to adjust. First of all, I was very nervous. A legend coming in, and she was just a sweetheart. And if you want to see heaven while you're on earth, too, have Patti LaBelle cook dinner for you. Patti cooked dinner for everybody in the studio. It was amazing after we got done. But one of the things, when we was in the studio working, I was recording her vocal. She was singing the song, and it was very dynamic. So she started out singing very sweetly, and she's Patti LaBelle just has that wonderful voice. But then
she can do anything.
Belted out. She could do anything, and then she just started belting out with this. I had preset everything and thought I was cool, had a little headroom and everything, but she was so powerful. She pinned the needles, she knocked the compressor back. She could hear when the compressor was on. So, she was like, hey, baby, can you turn that off? She didn't like what it was doing to her voice. She could hear it super sensitive. So I took it off and everything, but of course, then she went wild with her normal Patti LaBelle power and slammed the needles and everything. And it was a great performance and everything, but she was, one thing, and although I didn't get a chance to work with Aretha, I heard she's kind of the same way in a lot of these legendary singers. It's like they do what they do, and you better have it, because when they're done, they're out. They're on to the next. You hope you got it, because
they're artists. They're not there to be perfectionists.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was embarrassed because it slammed some things. So I had a little bit of distortion in one part of her vocal and everything. And, I was embarrassed to tell her, but I had to kind of confess that, we got it and it sounded pretty good, but could you redo this little part? And because, but she was a sweetheart and redid it, no problem and everything. But I was so embarrassed because I thought I had prepared and was just so ready for everything. I knew she was a powerhouse singer, and my compressor was my backup. But like I said, I didn't count on her not wanting it on there. So, I had to adjust in real time to figure out how to catch that. So basically what I did was, like they did, like I said, before all that stuff existed, when she went back to redo it, I had to do finger compression. I just had to ride the fader on my preamp, on my input going in. And when I knew she was going to do it, I had to real time listen to what she's singing, and I had to perform along with her on the vocals to even it out with a manual knob turning, as opposed to relying on this outboard gear to capture her. And that's a great lesson, because that actually took me back to my beginnings when I first learned, because before they had automation and stuff like that, we used to have to get in on mixing boards and stuff like that and manually ride the song, do section by section, record it to tape, and then do another section. And if you mess up, you got to start all over again and everything. So that was
and don't accidentally erase the recording, or you're really in trouble.
Oh my God, yeah, But let me tell you about Prince. I think I might have told you this, but and it wasn't me. But Prince, was just amazing. He had amazing rhythm and everything like that.
What a groove.
But he made me so nervous, because we had called up a track one day, and I put it on, and he likes to do a lot of the stuff himself and everything. So, he just kind of knocked me out the way. It was like, pulled up some horn parts, and there was some horn parts that he had that did a tracking date like at 4 a.m. Everybody was gone and everything, and he decided there was a couple parts he didn't like, so he's on there in real time just erasing stuff off the tape machine.
Whoa.
And I'm like, but I mean, he did it perfectly and everything, and quite frankly, I've done that myself too. But when there's somebody like that, all I kept praying is better him than me if something gets messed up, But he just
some people think this is great. Because some people think because he says he's the producer of his records, that he's the only one there doing everything. And that's obviously not true.
Many times he is, though. Many times he is for the most part, because we would basically set him up. I think early in his days, he had to rely on engineers more because he didn't know. But once he owned his studio and all that, to be honest with you, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot. If he was playing, like when we do tracking dates and stuff like that, he'd go out there with the musicians and everybody, and then we record all that stuff. But once the music is on tape or whatever, many times he'll just say, put on such and such tape and I'll call you when I need you. We leave and let him do his things. Or like I said, in a case like that, when he just wanted to arrange by erasing parts on the fly and everything, I'd be in the room with him, but he's punching in and punching out parts and moving some things, and I'm just kind of standing back watching. And
well, what about when he did his vocals? Did he try to do that all by himself?
That's all by himself. We set him up. Wow. We set him up with a microphone in the control room, and then we leave. He'll call us when he needs us. Because all those little things and all that feeling and everything, I would have loved to have been in there and seen all that. But that's something that you can't, that has to come from another place. And I think you can only probably get that by yourself, For some people, that's just how it is, There's other people that just can go there because they're just used to that. Like, could you imagine having been in the room to watch Whitney Houston sing "I Have Nothing"? I would have loved being in the room watching her doing that, or singing "I Will Always Love You," and being the engineer while she's doing that, because the feeling that they inject and the things, they go to a whole nother place. So just being part of that would have been amazing.
So, I know I'm still sharing the screen. We'll get back to this. We're going to talk about your school, but I don't want to get too far off topic at this moment. So this is, again, a great intersection to what I'm talking about, is how can we help singers be good for you? So you're talking about, okay, the old style singers, they knew certain things. They knew how to do certain things. Now, obviously, with all these different vocalists you do, you can't really count on, you have to count on your skills, your experience to record us the best that you can do. But what can we give you organically? I know emotion is a big part. I've heard you guys say that, if there's no emotions, there's really nothing we can do. We can't fix that with reverb. We can't EQ that, right? Is that still the case?
Right. Yeah. Here's the thing. Today now, with tools and technology, you can pretty much do almost anything except inject feel. That's the only thing that you can't do. But if you've got that part of it, and you need to inject other stuff, the technology is so amazing now and constantly getting better that you can pretty much inject almost anything. But the one thing that's why I think people get worried about AI doing music and singing and things like that. And by the way, there's some incredible things. I'm totally not against it, because like I said, I've seen this happen with technology over and over again. When samplers first came in, everybody went crazy and lost their mind. Now it's no big deal. When drum machines first came in, synthesizers. So this is just another tool. It will never outdo our real-time ability to utilize and pivot and pull out emotion in a way that a machine or calculate, the binary ones and zeros can't put together. They can just simulate things, but we can do this, something that they can't do. So little things like I mentioned, like for example with Whitney Houston, knowing how to do those light, airy tones and then suddenly expand it into your face and then pull back, because of how the lyrics are going. Doing things with syllables, a half a word is important. The way you expand and blow it up and shrink it down, or push it or contract it, soften it, harden it, percussive, all these little things. They'll never get that with AI. They can simulate it, but then we have to take it and run with it, just use it as an idea generator.
Well, AI would have to actually feel emotions.
Yeah.
And if they could do that, then who knows? But yeah, I'm really with you. And one of the things that I do for my students, and Far Play Against part of this, is I do everything exclusively with my singers wearing headphones and using microphones. And I recommend that they do it every day, so that they feel comfortable with the microphone, they feel comfortable with the headphones, and that when they emote their emotions, that they feel comfortable with the way it's going to sound, right?
Yeah.
So I know you can't tell us like, okay, Brad, tell everybody to do this, but we probably, I know too much sound pressure level. I'm very familiar with that problem because a lot of singers have it. In fact, it's very interesting the way I've learned to listen to recordings. Like just a quick example is Katy Perry's Fireworks. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that I know because I'm a vocal tech guy, is that when a certain vowel is sung the wrong way, the sound pressure level goes way up. I mean, it can almost double. And then if you turn around and sing the same note with a different vowel where they don't have the problem, then the sound pressure level stays reasonable, stays pretty much within. So even in that section, baby, there's a fire, where she's basically in what some people call the head voice range, baby, you're a, so she would go like, baby, you're a, very good, nice and clean. I didn't hear any compression. Then she goes, fa, and then I hear the compression clamp it down. And the only thing that's kind of sad about that is it took away some of the color of her voice. It didn't sound as clean as the rest. But we're also used to that. I don't think anybody notices.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. I hear what you're saying there, but to me, that is one of her most impactful songs. It affected everybody. Yeah. So the feeling, as long as the feeling wasn't stripped away, right. We don't care what the compression or any of the other things. I've heard so many. You think about listen to some old Motown records and everything, and you'll hear distortion all over the place.
Oh yeah.
There's all kinds of things that are just technically messed up, but the bottom line is that stuff made you feel something, and it makes you, that becomes part of it. So understanding that, sometimes I'll even try to inject some things like that. If I hear somebody that's singing like somebody like her, for example, and she's got different things that's going on, and if a compressor, I'll listen to see if the compressor is keeping her in the area that's needed so that the emotion is maintained, but the emotion is always paramount to anything else. Everything else is subservient to that. And then my mind might be thinking that, okay, that might be doing too much. Maybe I need to use a different type of thing. So maybe she needs to use serial compression by using more than one thing to catch the attacks, then another thing to catch the tails. Well, maybe that's too much. It's still too evident. It's taken away from the natural organicness of what she's singing. Okay, maybe it just needs some tape compression. Tape compressors. Maybe I just need to put that on there, and that'll just kind of put her in the area, and then I ain't got to use so much of the other. You never know. You have to constantly be thinking for the scenario what is needed to achieve ultimately the feel of what's going on, the message that's being purveyed, the lyrics at that particular time, what's being said, the whole overall feeling of the song. If it's just one piece of the song that is there and then it's gone, but everything else is cool, maybe it's not that big of a deal to even worry about. I notice it, but maybe I'm making more of it than nobody else will even feel carrying that. Let me zoom back out 30,000 foot view and see if nobody is feeling that what just happened or whatever. Have you ever listened to do you ever do heavy metal, the scream vocals and stuff like that, where they get that real guttural scream?
Yeah, they're using the false chords. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that stuff because the thing is that that's all about getting that edge that get you that it makes you like you just have something going on, and if you tame that too much or whatever
It's
by
gone,
compressing so to keep all those things, compression's a big part of that because it brings up the low stuff and pushes down the hard stuff. But if you do too much of it, it'll lose the aggressiveness. You want that feeling like a monster starting to come out at you. Or,
it's emotions. It should be done emotionally. People say, how do you teach that, Brad? I say, well, I don't. And there are people who do teach it. But the way I suggest you do it is you feel it.
You got to feel it, man. And
then it'll happen. If we can get that emotion, then it'll happen. You don't have to know a technique for it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's bottom line is what does it feel like? And the stuff around it. Those kind of vocals are not meant to be like an R&B vocal where it's sitting like on top of the song in the groove, nice, clean, clear lyrics. They're meant to be buried in the middle of distorted guitars on both sides, chaos, the drums thrashing and everything. That vocal's meant to be tucked right in the middle of that. You can barely hear what they're saying, but you can feel grit that's going on, And if you start worrying about trying to get too technical and tame too much of those things, you lose what it feels like, and that's always what it should be about.
Well, you'll get 100% agreement from me, Khaliq. And I think this is something singers don't hear enough about. However, there is another side to the story here, and that's the longevity of the singer, right? So some of these things are abusive. So, Seth and I are he was a voice therapist. I'm a voice therapist. I'm a little bit more into what you're talking about than he was. I'd say I'm a lot more. But how does a singer, from our world, give you what you want, the audience what they want? How does Katy Perry continue to belt out that much sound pressure level and then do the next recording or do the next show or so forth? So my job is to figure out a way to help bring that sound pressure level down so that you get what you want as a listener, but she gets to do what she wants to do as a singer, where she gets to keep going, and not be stuck in a situation she can't get out of. And so I watch the sound pressure level. And when we use FarPlay, I don't put compression on it because I want the singers to actually see the dB meter. I want them to see when they're clipping out. Because there is a way, Khaliq, and it takes some time, but there's a way for the singer to give you what you want. In other words, really feel it, really get the emotion, but also not increase the sound pressure level to that degree. I mean, there should be dynamics. I mean, duh, right?
Yeah.
But can we blend the technical world of singing with the technical world of recording? And that's my job, and that's what you're backing me up on, and I thank you so much for it. The last podcast we did, it was I think it was the first or second. I can't remember what producer I did it with, but I showed a Melodyne example of what you would think of as a perfect singer. Her name is Katherine Jenkins. She's a classical opera singer, pop singer. She's what they call a classical pop singer. And you'd see her on Melodyne. Dre. Oh, it was Dre DeMost. And Dre was going, I can't believe that anybody can be that far on pitch. I mean, we had zeros with a sustained note, with vibrato right in the center of it. But the problem is that contemporary listeners, they get very bored with that because it's very predictable. You know exactly what's going to happen next, right? And her video is the same thing.
And they don't know why they're bored with it.
No, they don't. They don't. Then I played Sarah McLachlan, so they would know. And same song, right? So Angel by Sarah McLachlan. And now you can see on Melodyne, you can see all the inflections, the pitch changes, the vibratos, the inaccuracies of everything, and how it brings out the emotions of everything. And so what I like to call this is calling sing from feel. So Katherine singing from intellect, doing, what she's taught, perfect technique. She would have been Seth Riggs' dream girl. Not that he taught her, but similar situation. Sarah, on the other hand, would be the singer that people would think is not a good singer, not good pitch, not good perfect rhythm, not good blah 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 blah. So we want to intersect the skill level of a singer, so they can keep singing and singing and singing without having to take a voice teacher to their recording sessions or take a voice teacher on tour with them because they're blowing their voices out. We try to get this mixture together, and you're really helping me with that, and I really appreciate it a lot. So there is no perfect singer that we can bring to you, obviously. I mean, that's just not a possibility.
Well, I'll give you another example too. I did different recordings with Shaka Khan, for example. Great singer and everything, but there was a time when people thought, because Shaka doesn't have like when we were talking earlier about falsetto and stuff like that. She doesn't have a natural falsetto. She's just powerful pretty much all through her range, So I had heard different people at different times, even though she's a great singer. Some people might say that they might consider that as a weakness, and to me it's like, well, wait, are you crazy? Everybody just has something different, and it's like when you feel somebody like that singing in the room, it doesn't matter how they get there. And there's a lot of singers that I've worked with too. Now, one of the things is it's a pet peeve, but at the same time, I know there's a lot of it. Is I can't understand how any singer can smoke cigarettes, But I mean, and even some of our greatest still smoke to this day and everything. Some of them it ruins their voice. Other ones they keep doing that and they're still fine. Who
Tony
knows
Bennett.
how it plays out? Yeah, in the long run. So it's like but I just don't understand that. So the bottom line is you really have to just kind of let people be who they naturally are. I know my job as an engineer or producer or any role that I'm playing is like I said, I've got to listen first and see what is naturally there before I interject anything that might take it off on another path. All I want to do is enhance and help them project what they are already trying to do. Just make it a little bit better from their point of view, not my point of view. That to me is one of the biggest lessons I learned. And I learned that, believe it or not, I learned that lesson because when I first started working at Lion's Share and starting at the high end, I learned great habits and everything, but what I didn't learn is not everybody's like that. So when I left and went independent, and take, for example, I started working with people that were a little less talented, but what really taught me a big lesson was starting to learn and work with people who were doing when hip hop first started coming in. And I started trying to inject my thought process of how to make it better from my point of view. And they didn't like what I was doing. It's just like, well, man, it sounds too clean, or it's just no. That's not what I'm going for, man. And then I had to listen. I said, show me what you would do, and I back off. And they do some stuff, adding a ton of this, that, and the other, bass, abusing EQ, turning things up,
distortion,
things like that, distortion, stuff like that. But you see what I'm talking about and all that, and. At first I didn't. I was like, what, you like that? But then I had to back up when like I said, the 30,000 foot view of zooming out and seeing what's good for the song, what's good for the singer, their identity, the group, the whole vibe that's being portrayed. What does it want and what does it need? And does it need to be cleaner or does it need to have that grit? Many times they told me, I need it to be a little more grimy, man. It's, you're making it too clean, you're trying to polish it up. Now I want it to be grimy. It don't feel right, and I learned that lesson to pull back and stop inserting myself as much on that thing, because sometimes it's appropriate, but other times it's not. And I have to learn how to be sensitive to when does it need it, when I need to back out and just let it be what it is, because that's the natural flavor of it. So some people, would you have gone in and tried to take I'm trying to think like an Amy Winehouse or somebody like that, or people that just got that natural little thing. It's not always spot on, but there's just something. Oh my God, it does something.
But that's what makes it great. Is it's not always spot on. You know Corey Jacobs, right?
Yeah.
He loves to say, "Perfect ain't perfect," and I love that.
Yeah, really. And, and I'll give you another example, so, I was part of the We Are the World thing. And so when Netflix did that thing, The Greatest Night in Pop,
Yeah, I saw that.
I learned some stuff that I didn't know, because on the night of the vocals, I was at Lionshare preparing the tapes to send over to A&M Studios where they could do the big vocal session. So, there's a whole bunch of engineers doing a lot of different things. So I didn't know that Bob Dylan got intimidated because he had all those great singers there and everything. And so he went in and started, and plus I had been there in the session beforehand, listening to Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie cast who was going to sing all the different vocal lines. I heard why they wanted people to sing the different lines. So they had cast how Bob Dylan would sing that, there's a choice we're making, we're saving all that. They had
good
Quincy
imitation.
and all them was talking about why they and they knew exactly what they wanted to hear. But when they got to the studio and it was time for him to do it, Bob Dylan had gotten intimidated by all these great singers in there, so he was going in there trying to be a singer and sing great. And it was just like, it just wasn't working. And then it took Stevie Wonder to calm him down and make him be Bob, do his thing. I didn't even know that, because like I said, I wasn't there that night, and I was really surprised to learn that. But it's amazing to see. Like I said, you got to learn when to get out the way, and some people even get in their own way, trying to be not, let it be what it is.
Well, that's one of the lessons I've learned. And I'll tell you just briefly how Bob Dylan changed my life. But as I recall from watching that movie, I think they said something about Stevie had actually done some imitations of Bob.
Yeah.
to get him to calm down.
Get him to do,
just sing it like that, And of course, Stevie with his ears, not being able. I remember one time as a singer thinking, "Gee, wouldn't it be cool if I was blind, because then all I could hear is music," I mean, that's a dumb thought, but, in a way, I think Stevie used it as an advantage. Not on purpose, just happened to turn out that way. But when I was young, I hated Bob Dylan. I thought he was terrible, And then, of course, when I was
Me too.
when I was with Seth Riggs, he was the antithesis of everything that I was learning, And then about 20 years ago, I had what I call the Bob Dylan epiphany. And part of it was him showing up on Rolling Stone's top 50 of the best singers of all time. And I had to start thinking about this, Brad, maybe you're wrong, maybe you got the whole wrong concept here. And I remember some young girls, when I was talking about him as a teenager, and I said, "Oh, yeah, what's he doing on the radio? He can't sing, blah, blah, blah." And they looked at me befuddled, and they said, "But he's so sexy." And then I looked befuddled. I'm like, I must have gone cross-eyed, right? But the thing that I've learned about Bob Dylan that I pass on to myself and anybody who wants to hear this is that he never introverts when he's performing. He's never asking himself, "Am I on pitch? Am I nasal?" All these people have told him, "Oh, you're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong." How could he live in this world and not hear all of the critics, right? But he ignores us.
Yeah.
He completely ignores us. Completely does his own thing. I put him on Melodyne. It was hard to find a pitch that was actually on. Minus 50 here, plus 5 there, percentage-wise, pitch-wise, rhythm-wise, everything, Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, there's all the slurs and the slides and all that kind of stuff. But that was what made Bob Dylan, and that's what we got to appreciate about him.
Yeah, I had to learn to grow into that too. But then I realized, like I said, it always goes down to the feeling. Forget all the perfectness. We can try. This is exactly why people, when drum machines first came in and everybody panicked and everything, perfect timing and all that. We don't want that. So that that's why people started taking the quantize off and making a percentage of it and things like that. Melodyne and auto-tune and everybody freaked out about it. But it's like, it's just another tool. Use it as much or as little as you need to get in there. But the bottom line is what do you want people to feel? And if you forget that, we're going to lose music. A lot of people are forgetting that. And that's why a lot of music is starting to sound the same. I'll be glad when, and I think, I don't know if we'll ever see the same level of innovation like we have, like in the, the 60s, 70s and all that, when so
Kids
many
still
new
love
things
that
that just
music
never.
too.
Absolutely, it'll live forever because, you know, things just came out of nowhere and had to be invented. Right now, things are just trying to be reinvented. But at that particular time, that kind of stuff didn't exist, so it was invented. And I don't know if we'll ever see that level of innovation in music again. But I tend to think that with all this technology, that's why I'm never against technology, that some kid that we haven't run into yet is going to come up and do something brilliant, like when a guy like Prince came out of nowhere. There was a time when Prince first came out, and everybody used to ask me, like, what was my favorite song of Prince? And I would always say When Doves Cry, and they'd be like, you just saying the, you know, the standard old answer and everything. And I say, no, what you got to understand, and I legitimately mean it about that song, is because when he did that song, he did something that was so unique and innovative that had never been done before that. He did a song without a bass. Before all that, every song had a bass. That. Every song had a bass in it and everything, and I think he did. I think it was Peggy McCreary. One of them was saying he did have all that kind of stuff in there, but he sent her home one day and then he worked on it all night and then came back and told. And when she came back in the morning, he told her to listen to it. And it was a whole different thing, but it changed the game completely because before then, every song, it was standard. You had to have a bass in the song, and that song didn't have. So that's why I like that song. It was a great song too, but because of that one thing right away, wait a minute, that song ain't got no bass.
I'll bet it changed his vocal. I'll bet it influenced his vocal, the fact the bass was not there.
Well, you know, I think his vocal was there, and he just put that together in the mix when he probably tried some different things. I think there was a bass there, and he just tried different things because he's you know, and I have to talk with one of the engineers one of these days to just see more about what that is. But from what I've seen, he tries all kinds of things, and when I saw that she said that he just, because they had been working on some stuff all day long, and he would make you work till you drop. So he sent her home, and then he continued going. And then when she came back the next day, he was still there, and he told her to listen. And then that was, what he had come up with, because he probably tried different iterations. His vocal was already done, and all the parts were already done. He was just reassembling, disassembling, reassembling to get that masterpiece in place, you know. And so that's amazing. And it's the same thing, like I said, I used to listen to the conversations that, I wish I would have gotten a chance to work with Michael Jackson more personally. But the few times that I did, I listened to the little conversations, you know. So, it's funny because a lot of people that were working there at the same time, they don't even remember those conversations. But I was like, oh, that little stuff that he said, you know. Fly on the wall, and because it's the little stuff that mattered. And I always saw how much that they pushed to get a sound or something that had never been heard before. I mean, that was the mantra over and over again. And then to see how they kept pushing everybody to do it. When the synth programmers had come in, when the musicians for different things came in, when the mixes were being put together, things like that. It was always pushing to find that one little thing that was different that people had never heard before. And I love that thought process. That's a lot of why I, like when I'm doing things, there's some people that love what I do, and then there's some people that hate what I do, because some people, I'll take a risk out there and try some stuff that's way outside of the box, and just to see, because I want to push some of the boundaries. It's based on me seeing things like that, and you just never know what you might come up with. So I love that kind of thought process.
Well, let me give you a compliment. I don't know if you've heard before. You are an artist.
I started as an artist, and I will always be an artist because I started as a guitar player in the band first. Like I said, my job at Lion Share and becoming an engineer was just an accident. A guy watched me for 2 years trying to record my own music as a guitar player and a songwriter. And he said, I know you're not really trying to do this, but we got an opening here, and I've watched how intense you are doing and learning this stuff on your own. Maybe you want to check this out. And then when I got in there, just I put down the guitar, and I wish I hadn't put it down. I wish I would have kept it both going, but that changed everything. So it's purely an accident. I wasn't looking to do this at all like this.
I wasn't looking to be a vocal coach either, but here I am. And when you mentioned Michael Jackson, one of the things we said around the studio was, he was no Pavarotti, but nobody grooved like Michael Jackson. Nobody came in that studio could groove like Michael Jackson. I don't care how many Pavarottis Seth brought in.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just like, Michael was, one of a kind. And sorry, he's gone. When you guys use Melodyne, see, you save us. When you people of your mentality, when you use Melodyne, you use it as an artist. You don't use it as a technician, and you save us. Because I've heard demonstrations of some guy saying, "Well, look what I do with the blues singer. I put them on Melodyne, and now look how on pitch they are." And I'm just going, it's like, that sounds terrible. What do you do?
Yeah.
You'll be bragging about that, right? But I've also worked with engineers, and I've also done vocal production where I've been there telling the engineer, look, and this little story I like to tell because this is an unusual thing. We were working a country singer who I was producing, and there was a pitch that had already been recorded, and we were doing the mix with Melodyne. And I said, you know what, that pitch is too on key. I want you to flatten that. And the engineer shook his head and he said, that's really twisting my ear. I says, well, yeah, it's country.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you don't listen to country. I said, do you listen to country? He said, no. Well, see, his ear wasn't trained that way. You've got to be in the genre. What is a genre? Like, if you've ever done, Khaliq, have you ever done like a Western singer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you got to let him do that stuff. You can't go fixing that.
No, you can't. Well, that was one of the first things when I worked at Lion's Share. He had Kenny had his publishing company there too. So because I was the newest engineer there, they used to put me on some of the stuff like that, the different country things. My very first session was Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. In fact, so you talk about somebody being nervous. That was my very first session. But they, when the publishing company would have different people come in and everything, Kenny would let them use the studio, and they'd usually assign me to do it. So I had to learn what was required and all that stuff. But like I said, the main things that I learned was, first of all, going and listen to them, listen to what they're doing, and just be the capture vessel, so that I see what's going to match up to their voice and style, and be invisible. I wasn't trying to put a stamp on it. That was the biggest thing. Get who they were, and then that worked out good.
Now, we earlier podcast we talked about how we as singers should also trust you though as the mix engineer, as the producer.
Yeah,
that we shouldn't coach you in our thinking of what we should sound like. If we get too into that, we can ruin the recording. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that as well?
Well, I very rarely, but usually what it is first of all, one thing I had to learn as well, because I would get when I first started in the studio, and I learned a couple of lessons from some of the big giants out there. But if something, I was very animated and always trying to get things together and be, if somebody looked like they needed, like if they licked their lips, I'm there with water and stuff like that. Right away, I was just over the top with that kind of thing. And it was cool, and they appreciated me being on it. But sometimes, I had to learn to you got to regulate it, because people say when you look like you're in charge, you look like you're calm and cool and collected and everything, but you're deliberate in your actions and everything. If you're moving too frantic and all over the place, people get kind of nervous. It's like, well, does this guy really know what he's doing and everything? So I had to learn to kind of moderate where I was in situations like that. And I noticed when I did that, if I looked like I had things under control and everything, I usually didn't get too much pushback, even from the greatest legends that had way more things in there. I just mentioned, well, listen, I'm noticing this or such and such. Can we try such, and okay, cool. Or can you give me a minute to do this or that and the other? I'm thinking that if I do this, we can get a little bit better result, And when I started regulating myself a little bit better like that, it worked out good. So with vocalists and everything, it was always about making them feel comfortable, because one thing that I found out too, is with artists in general, and you've probably seen this a lot, Brad, is that artists are very insecure. You know, they're very insecure, even when they seem like they're not. Many times they're very, very insecure. Many times they get stage fright and they get nervous before they can have tens of thousands of fans out there and still get stage fright to this day. I know a lot of people tell me that and have told me that over the years. And I'm like, really? You know?
Yeah, and they don't like hearing their own. They don't like hearing their own recordings. I've heard that a lot too. I don't like hearing my voice on a recording.
I don't like it. When I worked with Christina Aguilera, you know, she's an excellent vocalist. When we were doing Possibilities with Herbie, she redid her vocal, I mean, probably 100 times, you know.
I've heard of that.
You know, and this is the thing, you know, I didn't do the final vocals, but I did some of the stuff in the very beginning, and then it went on, because to me, it's like the first things that somebody like that with that kind of skill level, you know, it's like you could take in almost anything that they do, and it's like, oh, that's done and everything. But they'll keep going. They hate it. They hate everything. They'll keep doing 100 different takes over and over and over again. And then, you know, they might end up circling back to like one of the first few, but they'll keep going and trying it because they hear or feel something that they just might not be getting to. And so they'll keep going literally endlessly. And you wonder what is bothering them. That was perfect. What is, you know, what's the problem, you know?
Well, where I've seen it become a negative is when they want to correct the pitches and they want to correct the rhythm. They want to become that perfect singer. And then the feel starts to go out the window, and that's where I've tried to help artists not do that. Yeah, we're right. Yeah. You're talking about a whole different level of artists. Yeah. I have tried to give them confidence, you know, which is difficult because what makes us love them, they don't know how they get it. They don't. It's kind of like a supermodel doesn't necessarily look in the mirror and go, "Oh, I look so beautiful." You know, but other people look at her and they drop their jaw. They can't, you know. It's I call it my redundancy theory. I won't go into that here, but I've seen it a lot. You know, I mean, myself, I look in the mirror. You know, my wife says, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so handsome." I look in the mirror and I go, "What?" I don't see it. You know, come on.
Yeah, right.
I've been looking at my face all my life. You know. What's special about it? But
notice all the little stuff.
Yeah, but when you're a listener and the artist is performing and you're the listener, then you can hear and see all those colors, you know, because it's all brand new to you. It's something you can, but for them, you know, they've heard it a million times. I think that's part of the issue. But that's interesting. Hey, go ahead.
Now, listen, I wanted to ask something. Sure. Does Natasha have anything she might want to ask while we got her on?
We're going to get into that real quick here, but I did want to just let you talk about your school here for a moment. Let me share the screen here again. Oops, I almost got GarageBand in here. How did I do that? I'll close that up.
Your head is getting swallowed.
Yeah, I'm telling you, what is going on here? No, I don't want sweet love. Get out of my life. Okay, all right, let's get back to screen share. There we go. Okay, and again, if you want to go back and look at your Eventbrite invitation, you see here, Khaliq has a school called the Music Creators Club, and I really wanted to talk about that because I'm 100% for singers knowing a whole hell of a lot more about this than they know, because it just makes them greater artists as far as I'm concerned. And so I want you, consider contacting Khaliq about this, consider joining. Tell us more about it, Khaliq.
Okay, well, this is a new community because what I'm finding, I used to, like you mentioned, reference this. Back in the day when we used to do our Google Hangouts and stuff like that, I missed getting on Hangouts with people and doing, having like 200-300 people getting on, and we're all just kind of chopping it up together, hanging out, different people contributing. School is kind of like that. So, and for those of you that don't know, the URL is school, which is spelled SKOOL.com / Music Creators Club. Creators with an S, not creator, but Music Creators Club. And then / at the end of that, go to /about. that's what'll get you to be able to be in there. I'm actually surprised that yeah, do me a favor on that URL. Put on / about at the end of it.
Oh, right up here?
Yeah, /
Okay.
about. I thought that's what I gave you.
Well, I just clicked the thumbnail there, and then it brought me.
Yeah, / about, and then
Enter?
that goes to, yeah, hit it. And then
there you go.
That goes to the about page, and what that is you can join the group, but you can get a preview and kind of see some of the things that I'm doing, and it explains what it is and all that. Anybody that wants to go there, school.com / music creators club / about. That's the about page. Go there and sign up. It's free right now. I'll probably convert it to paid at some point, but right now I'm leaving it open, and I'm just sharing a bunch of different things. I've got trainings in there. There's a Start Here module. Go to the, do me a favor, go to the classroom. Oh, you're not logged in right now. You're already in there, right, Brad?
Well, I just clicked on the thumbnail.
Yeah, go to classroom first.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the Start Here module has everything that you guys will need to kind of get started. And what it is when you get in there and watch some of the different videos and trainings and everything, you can get in and level up to level 2 and scroll down the page a little bit. There's different things that I'm still building it out as we go, but I'm going to be doing some different things like that. I've got something in there called the 5-song EP release formula that if you've got 5 songs ready to go and you're ready to release them, I've got a little training in there that is an overview, and I'm going to be doing a deep dive on that, which is right next to it, the live workshop. That'll be coming up to show people how to get in and get their stuff released and selling directly to their fans and supporters these days, because going out and trying to get a record deal, that day is gone. Most people that are really making money out here and stuff like that now are not even worrying about that. Putting their stuff on Spotify and some of these other things like that is cool and everything. But the main thing is if you want to sell your music, you've probably got some people that you've met all over your career and during your lifetime that told you, I like what you do. Wow, man, I think you're pretty talented. And they would buy and support your stuff. So selling directly to fans these days, there are people that are making some good money and stuff like that if they just simply set up a web presence to make that happen, instead of worrying about getting a million streams and maybe only getting a couple $1,000 here, if you get that. It's so hard to get any money out here, so you got to find different ways of packaging up and bundling up your stuff so that you can have success for the people that already love and support what you're doing, and to have them spread the word so that you can grow your own support system.
And that's great advice. I haven't heard that before. That's really good.
Well, that's going to be part of that deep dive training that I do on the live workshop. But anybody that gets there, join up and go through the overview, which is free in there right now for the 5-song EP release formula. And there's a lot of other things in there. I've got deep dives where
I can see you've got a whole bunch of stuff. You've been quite productive, young man.
Yeah, well, it's getting there. It's still in the build out process, but I'm getting there, and I have a lot of plans over the years. So I want to build this into a huge community where people can interact with me and interact with others, meet different people, find like-minded individuals, so that we can all get on there. I'm going to be doing a lot of regular workshops and free and paid trainings and things like that, because I've been doing, Brad, behind the scenes, basically what I'm doing now is exclusively mixing or coaching, so I have people send me stuff here, and if they want me to mix their track, we work out a price or whatever. But a lot of times, people just want me to help them move farther in their thing. So, I do everything if I do a live coaching thing and run them through a 12-week process or something like that, and charge anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 to get that going. and everything, but I'll deep dive them through all the different areas each week so that they get something and they keep moving along rather than being stuck in time, because the biggest problem is you can find almost anything you want to learn out here on YouTube or somewhere, but it's all piecemeal. It's all over the place, and nobody really addresses your particular circumstance that you might be in. So for you singers out there, for example, you can find all kinds of things about how to pick a microphone, how to use EQ frequencies and things like that, how to put a compressor on and things like that. But does that apply specifically to you and what you're doing at the time within the song? What they don't tell you, and a lot of people don't know how to fill in the blanks, is that all that can change. The key of your song might determine how your EQ is going to be, because they're frequency based. So just because you find a tutorial that tells you put this frequency and boost this one here, cut this one there and everything, they're talking about a snapshot, and they're not talking about all that goes out the window if the key of the song is changed, or if there's a different vocalist, if it's a male vocalist versus a female vocalist, if your voice has a certain area where it blooms in a certain range of your voice but changes when you get into another range, whether it's higher or lower. All those things that you just learned from that one snapshot tutorial that you learned go out the window. So the value that I'm bringing to people is when they get with me and I can specifically, like I said, listen directly to them, what they got, or they send me their music. So you can find some case studies and stuff in there where I've done it with some people with not just their vocals, but their music and stuff like that. They might even just send me, say, an MP3, and I could do something like take apart the stems, see what's going on with it, and then put them back together where it might sound 10 times more powerful than it did when they thought they had a finished mix ready to go, and they found out that there was a lot more that could have been done to bring a lot more power and clarity and groove and punch and all that, but they just didn't know what was missing until they heard what it could be, the potential it could be. So I'm doing a lot of that kind of stuff inside of school, and then when I hook up with people, like some people might get with me and want to say, well, Khaliq, I got a thing called a VIP day, which I usually do for $1,500. I just take a day with somebody, and then we just deep dive in on all the little issues that they want to do, and that's where, like I said, I can get into little things like with vocalists. I can show you the ranges in your voice where there's different areas. I can show you if you have a song and your vocal's not quite sitting in the track, I can deep dive with how to approach getting the best out of where your vocal is, because here's what's happening in real time as opposed to just giving you a general thing. And then I end up putting together like some kind of like a worksheet or a report or something like that that's a roadmap that when you leave and move on, you can still apply it and refer back to it and say, oh, okay, here's what Khaliq told me. I remember that. Let me try that on this new circumstance situation. So that's why I'm doing all this, because it makes it way more efficient to be able to get a bunch of people in, and then those that need individual help, you can just come to me, and then I know it's not for everybody. The price is a little steep. So every now and then I do some different little things where I'll work something out individually, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, Brad, but I got something special for your folks too that I'm going to do, something I've never done before. Cool. And, I want to see how this is, but I got something that's going to be amazing. I want to try it because I want to see how many people I can help and everything, but I'll tell you about that a little bit later, okay?
I love that. And, YouTube can only go so far, and, it's created a whole bunch of hucksters out there that are just selling stuff that just doesn't work, and we need people like you to bring us back to earth. And here's my
one thing I can say is a lot of people don't walk the walk. They can talk the talk. They've learned a lot of things from different sources out there, but I can say that I've been thrown into all kinds of scenarios. So I can honestly, without bragging, say that I do walk the walk.
Look for those credentials when you're
What's up, my man?
People.
What's up, my man? There he goes. Yep. Good to see you, bro.
Okay, so we'll open up the Q&A now. My video's doing something weird. I don't know why. It's weird stuff. Anyway, I've got this new hat on. This new technology. Anyway, so let's let, I guess, Khaliq already opened it up to Natasha, so go ahead, Natasha. And, Mayat, it's great to have you here, and that's going to add a lot to today's podcast, and we appreciate you being here. Go ahead, Natasha.
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We got you.
Let me see if I can turn you up a little bit.
I'll start my 10,000 questions. Okay, so if you've got a singer so I sing with a lot of vibrato and I put it in intentionally because I've been listening to pop music my whole life, and I just think I like the sound of vibrato. Sometimes I really do a lot of vibrato, maybe not on every syllable, but there's like intentional vibrato. I can take it off if I want, but I like the sound of it. What tips do you have, and what would you do as a producer and when you're mixing so that to complement that, basically?
Okay. And Maud and Brad are gonna love this too. I'm gonna put you on the spot, okay? Give me an example. Sing right now. Show me what you mean.
Oh my God. Okay, right.
This is what we do.
I didn't know this was gonna happen.
Oh yeah. No warning.
Okay, let me think. Hold on, let me find something. So, I'm gonna do like one line.
Okay.
But like literally one line. I'm just trying to think of what song I can do.
Just do what comes to your heart. Anything to show me what you're talking about.
What was I singing the other day? Hold on. What was I singing the other day? So okay, like for example, if you do like slow down, lie down. I'm not singing it properly because I'm being put on the spot. But yeah, but like if you do like like for example that song where it's like slow down, lie down. So it's like you do on the down, you do the vibrato, and then you do the vibrato on like the next few syllables.
Natasha, let me cut you off real quick, and I'm going to get in there because I want this to be a good teaching moment where you can get some instant value. So one of the first things, and we used to do this actually even a decade ago. So how you practice is how you're going to be. So sing it to me. I didn't feel nothing that you just said. I don't know what you mean because you're not being intentional. You're saying words slow down and all that. You're telling me about the vibrato, but I don't hear the vibrato that you're talking about. I don't get it. So get into your feelings. Feel what you want to feel, and then make me feel it and sing it the way it's supposed to be sung. It ain't got to be perfect. Get out. You're in a safe space, so we're not going to judge you or whatever. So take a deep breath, inhale, and then think about what it is and show me what you mean and make me feel it, and then I can help you better like that. Because you're a singer, right? That's what you do.
Yeah, so
this is you, so sing.
Yeah, so usually like I have to warm up, but I haven't warmed up.
No. I don't
Mark's like shaking his head.
If Shaka Khan, if Whitney Houston in there walked in the room and they said sing, they just sing. They ain't got to go through all that. That's you're trying to set me up for a thing, but you are singing.
Okay, so I'll do it. Okay. Like I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses. I've got fever right now, but okay. But basically, I'm trying to think of something.
This is the hot seat. Just sing. What comes to your mind? Do the same thing you did. Slow down. I need to slow down. Now I'm gonna speed up. Say whatever you want to say and show and demonstrate it.
Okay.
You're thinking. You're in your head. Get out of your head and into your heart. That's what I'm trying to get you to do. Get out of your head and into your heart.
Say what you
Sing
mean.
to me, girl. Sing to me, girl. Come on now.
Okay, so if you do like slow down, lie down, whatever is just you and me, like that. Okay, so so basically, what would you do like to complement? I mean, I'm not like what would you do to complement? What would you do to complement like a lot of vibrato?
Well, you're talking about a riff, I think. That's not vibrato. That's a riff. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay.
Yeah. But it's where you oscillate a lot.
Okay.
Because I like to oscillate a lot when I'm singing.
All right. Well, this is what I'm trying to get you to do now. And see, like I said, I want to make this a really good, helpful teaching moment for you, Natasha. So what I want you to do, and I know I can see you're a little shy, a little nervous and everything, but like I said, what's going to help you is to just get into it. So all I want you to sing is slow down and then do the vibrato. And do me a favor, do your natural vibrato first, and then what I want you to do is a second time and then slow down and put the vibrato at the end. Okay, and then we're gonna do different iterations. And why I tell you that is because they're gonna feel different. You want me to feel different when you hear that. So sing that phrase, slow down and put the vibrato at the end. Just do it the way you naturally do.
Okay, so you want me to do slow down, but on the down you want me to put vibrato the whole way through. Okay, so slow down. So
okay, cool.
That's on the whole of the down.
Okay,
and
perfect.
then you're saying the second time you want me to do it right at the end of down and then put vibrato right at the end.
Okay, yeah, do that now.
Okay, so then that would be slow down. I can't even do it because I'm so used to putting vibrato the whole way through. So okay, so I'll try. So it'll be it'll be slow down. Like I can't even do it. This is what I mean. Like so basically.
It's okay. No, you can do it. You can do it.
But the thing is, I'm so used to putting a lot of vibrato on everything, so it's really counterintuitive to me. I'd have to just not put it on at all.
No.
Slow down.
I don't want to be too brutal on you, but you want me to be? Do you want me to be gentle or do you want me to be truthful?
Just be truthful.
Okay, I'm going to be very truthful to you, and I think this will help you the most too. There's no problem at all with your singing. You're in here. You're trying to think of a way to do it instead of letting it go out. So I want you to try something. You got 2 words, slow down. So let's get the most out of that slow down right now, okay? What I want you to do is you talked about vibrato, and you put the vibrato on the slow, and then you put it on down. Now, I'm not even a singer, but I'll go, slow down. I'll do that. I might do it. I'm not a singer. But do this. Try some different iterations. Try putting the vibrato on the slow. Slow down. Try that.
Okay,
put the vibrato on the slow instead of the down and see if you can do that.
Okay, so slow. I can't even.
Yeah, you're in your head. Good, just do it. Just do it. You're okay.
You know, it wasn't me because I just sing a certain way and I just like singing a certain way. It was someone else it was a week ago who was like, oh, but you sing with a lot of vibrato, and I'm like, well, that's just how I sing. Like that's how I like to sing, basically.
But okay, now like check this out. See, and the reason why I'm having you do this, for example, is what if somebody says, okay, I like how you sing, but I need you to sing it differently for me for this scenario. You know, I got a TV show and I think your voice would fit right in there, but I don't want you to sing the vibrato on the down. Put it on the slow, and I'm gonna pay you $20,000 to put that vibrato on the slow. Were you going to say that that's just the way I sing? Sorry, but
no, it's just because it's a Paolo Nutini song that I've like listened to my whole life.
But, so I'm just trying to get you to be. I'm just trying to get you.
No, I understand.
Be open, please. Just be open a little bit to hear what I'm saying, because see, I think you're stuck in your head of thinking that there's only one way. But to open yourself up, you have to try different things. So you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. You're in your comfort zone. I know that's the way you've been doing it. But what if something comes up and somebody needs you to be versatile and say, well, I like how you sound, but I don't like how you're doing that. You have to be able to do it a different way. That's a mind thing, because your voice is fine. So if I would ask you right here, right now, if I'm Quincy Jones is gone or whatever, but the biggest producers in the world or whatever, and they say, well, okay, you sound great, but put the vibrato on slow. That's what they want. That's what they need. And you don't say, well, that's just how I sing. You would have to be able to say, okay, all right, cool, let me try that. And then do the slow. Okay, the slow sounds good, but you're singing it, you're warbling a little too fast. Can you slow it down and make a slow warble? Okay, I thought I like it, but I don't like it. Okay, can you make it a fast warble on the slow? You got to be able to do. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, put it back on the down. put the vibrato on the down. I need you to do that. Can you do that? You know, and to be able to jump and do that, that's what's going to really give you the best of being the vocalist that you want to be, because it's not going to be about being stuck and thinking that I only can do it one way. I really feel, and I can hear in the tone of your voice, you've got a nice tone, so you're more than what you're telling yourself. And you know, you just have to let yourself say, I can do this. Okay, what did they just ask me to do? Okay, I can do that. That's a challenge. Okay, challenge accepted. I can do that. You know, if I say no vibrato at all, take off the vibrato. I hate it. You could say slow down. I just need it to be a straight flat thing. Can you do that? So you have full control of your voice. This is what, you know, this is what I've witnessed time and time again out of, you know, the best, greatest singers in the world is they just move. And it's not just singers, it's a mindset thing. The greatest musicians, when the musician is playing something and then they quite sitting on the beat right, they say, well, you know, I kind of like that part, but I don't like what you're doing on that third bar. Can you move it here? They just do it. Oh, okay, that's what you need. Okay, cool. You know, I don't like that. Can you change? You know, so being able to move on a dime when somebody says things like that, that's a mindset thing. It's not a voice thing.
I agree. I'm just saying I don't like the vibrato on the slow on that song. I just think it just ruins the song,
well,
basically.
Well,
that's why it seems alien to me.
I think you're missing my point, though. My point is that you're saying that you don't like it, but what if you had to change? Are you saying you're inflexible? Are you saying that?
No,
because
no, I'll do it. I'll try it. I'd try it. No, I'm not. Obviously, I completely understand if a vocal producer says, "Can you do it this way?" Then I'll do it that way. Obviously, I have an idea of what I want it to sound like, but at the end of the day, if you've got a vocal producer in the room and they want you to try to do it a certain way, then you try it everyone's way, and then you will decide which way. So I completely agree with you. Yeah. So I'm not disputing that what you're saying. So just to rephrase, I'm not saying that like I can't do it. It's just basically, you know, when you're a creative person and you also like, you know, top lining and writing melodies and things, like intuitively in your own head, when you, like, for example, when I'm making a melody or I'm writing, it comes out of my head in a certain way when I'm like just making the song. So it's not just a case of the melody itself. It's like it comes out with the vibrato, it comes out with the, like me doing it soft or the dynamics, it just comes out straight away. So then, you know, when I'm singing, I'm thinking of that in my head of like, how do I want this to sound? If somebody's going to like sing it down the street, some kid's going to sing it down the street, how is that going to sound? So it's not that, it's me, that's more me being like a writer than it is me being like, oh, I don't want to sing it like that because a vocal producer's asked me. Of course, if a vocal producer wants me to try it a certain way, then I will. I think just generally.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm doing a lot of writing.
Can we get back?
Let me ask you a question.
Was?
Do you rewrite your songs, or do you just take them the way you put it out and
no? So
don't take them any further.
So at the moment, I'm writing a lot. I've got a project coming up, and I'm writing a lot. And no, not like, so basically, I actually work best having one pass, like going away, not looking at it for 2 days, coming back. And I'm the type of person who nitpicks. So like, I will find all the faults. And, you know, Brad tells me off this all the time. He's like, just get out of you being a perfectionist. But I do feel that it does help me in this scenario, because like you do it, and obviously as you're doing it, you're trying to do it well. Yeah. So you do it, and then you're like, okay, you know what? And if you've actually settled and you've been doing it for a few hours, and by the end of a few hours, you're like, okay, I'm going to stop because I'm happy. I'm actually happy with this. Natasha's never happy with it, but but wow, I'm actually happy with this. So I'm going to stop working now. Right. Mm-hmm. And then what I do is I come back 2 days later and like tear the whole thing apart. So it's almost like I'm not saying it's good enough. It's just then all of a sudden, because my output, I guess, has on the previous 2 days ago was just getting that's all that was going to come out of me. 2 days later, I'll go and I'll be like, you know what, actually, it might be better to do this, and it might be better to do this. And actually, I think it's like because one thing, I think I'm actually better at editing, like, and like when a song's already been done, than I am actually making the first pass. So the first pass I have at anything that I write isn't the best one. And I've actually, like, in the past few weeks, I've been writing like for my album, and it's like the backbone is there. Like, I'm going to be working with some writers and some producers, but the backbone is there and it's pretty good. But now when I listen to it, I've been, like, you know, playing it to myself to see if I'm getting bored of it. I'm not getting bored of it, so that's a good sign. But then I'm listening to it and I'm like, you know what, actually, this can be better. And so that's just the way I work. I think I work well that way, is like doing it well, but then 2 days later coming back, listening to it and going, right, I want to make it better. Then do that the same 2 days later, then do the same 2 days later, until you're like, right, I'm going to ruin it if I change it anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's just my way. I've just found I'm pretty new to writing, but for me, I feel like that like is how it's happening at the moment. But anyway, back to the original question, like, what if you do have a singer that sings with, like, who likes singing with vibrato? Obviously it's a personal thing. Some people don't like it as much, some people like it. What like tips and tricks do you have as a producer when you're mixing to complement that?
Well, first of all, I think you're thinking about that part of it wrong. You say when I'm mixing, and
or producing, or like.
Okay, well, I'll explain, because remember I started out this whole thing saying record to mix. That was the whole thing where I say when you start out at the source and everything. This is what all the greats do, first of all. So this is why I was putting you through that exercise, because what I think will give you the most flexibility and versatility is to be willing and open to modifying on a dime in all kinds of iterations, just to try it and see what happens. And that really is the case. You know, I mentioned how I watch different people do different things, and they change up stuff all the time, and they might end up back at take 1, take 2, take 5, or whatever, but they go through all the other things to try different things, move things around and all that. That's what gives you the versatility to find out what's actually going to be the best. So as far as something like vibrato, there's situations where the vibrato might be better on the front of the phrase as opposed to the end of the phrase. It might be better at the end of the phrase, but it might need to be faster or slower. It might need to ramp up into it. It might need to start static and then go, which is really how you should do vibrato most of the time. Other times it might need to get, depending on the style of what's being done, it might to come right on there. Like, you know, when you hear opera and stuff like that, they got a lot of vibrato going on immediately on the thing. But when you hear other styles and everything, they might hit a note and then go into the vibrato at the end. So it really depends on you becoming flexible enough to try all those different ways to see what fits for, first of all, what you're singing. You know, what do the lyrics call for? What is the song about? Where is it at in the part of the song? What's the tonality that's going on? How is the phrase going? Is it going up or is it going down? Because that can determine on how the vibrato goes. You know, if it's going up, there's a different approach to whether it might need vibrato as opposed to when it's ending in vibrato coming down into it. You know, there could be a slope. So there's a lot of things that go into this. This is a lot of what I've had to do as a producer as well, you know. So understanding that to serve yourself the best, be willing and open to try all the different iterations to just kind of see that what came out at first, get it out. That's why I always say, get it out first. Do it the first way that came out. That's your natural thing. But then after you've gotten it out and everything and it's done, then think and examine and say, okay, what if? Ask that. What if is a wonderful question. This is what will get you to the best possible answer. So when you're asking me about the vibrato and where should I do it, how should I do it and everything, that's how I would think about it. That's why I said sing. Then I listened to what you said, and when you said slow down, it's just 2 words, but there's those 2 words, a lot can happen in it too. In just 2 words, you could say slow and then put the vibrato in the middle of the slow. Put the vibrato at the end of the slow. Or you could put it on down and put the vibrato in the middle of that. Or at the end of that. It could be fast. It could be slow. It could be both. It could be ramp up, start slow, get fast, and then come back down. So many things. So to get your versatility, being able to try and attempt to do those things to see what happens is what's going to get you the most benefit, I believe.
So, I mean, aside from the writing side of it, because I would class that as like the writing, what in terms
that's more
of
performance. That's performance, not writing. No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, performance. Yeah, so basically, what would you like? Is there anything that you would do when you're like? Because I'm presuming you comp vocals and you produce like when you're doing that. When you're producing and you're actually like EQing the vocal, whatever, is there anything that you do that is specific to like a vibrato in somebody's voice?
No, see, all the things you're mentioning right now, and I really think this is the disservice a lot of times that technology brings. You're talking a lot of technological things that have nothing to do with capturing it right in the front end. And before you have to do any of that stuff, I don't even think about any of that stuff if it's not right in the capture, in the performance, not the writing. The writing is writing the structure. Writing is putting things together, making sure the messaging is right. Then you have to perform that message. That message, depending, you had those 2 words slow down, but what came before the 2 words slow down? What came before it and what comes after? Where's this song going? That's going to determine a lot about what goes into that type of thing. And that to me is on the front end of the performance. I would never try to do that with technology at the end. There's no EQ that can make that right. There's no melodyning that's going to make that right. You can just fake it and put it in there, but ain't nobody going to feel it. Nobody will buy your music. You'll never break through because you have to get it on the front end where what you intended people to feel is baked into what was actually captured. And then you use the technology to enhance and lift that part up. But if it's not in there in the beginning from how it's approached, all that other stuff is not going to work. It's just going to be, icing over top of something that's nasty underneath.
Let me interject. So, what Khaliq is right on, and I came up with a phrase for this. Sing from feel. Feel it, then sing it, and then Khaliq can decide what to do with it. It's very hard for him to okay, what am I going to do with this vibrato? I mean, what does it feel like? What emotion is under the vibrato? If there is no emotion under the vibrato, yeah, you say could do it again.
I would send it back. Many people have sent me stuff, and I'll be like, I can't mix this. This, you got to do this again. This is not right. I would send it back because there's nothing I could do on my side to do it. And as a writer, artist, a performer, producer, and all that. You should never want that to be the solution on the back end. It should always be on the front end.
Yeah, no, I wasn't suggesting that you would add vibrato with a plugin. That would be terrible. I just thought maybe there's something some techniques but I guess it's kind of difficult to conceptualize unless you've actually
From what
heard
I'm
it.
hearing, say he would have to have it in front of him listening to it to know what he's going to do.
I understand that.
And even then, if it was baked in, like I said, if somebody sent me something and if it just if it wasn't right, I'd send it back. It was really that simple, you know. And now if it's the way that they want it and they insist that's the way they want it, then I have to make a decision that, well, if I do this, how does this represent me? If it's something that's, and I trust me, I've turned down a lot of people who've submitted bad music because it just wasn't up to par, and I'm like, I can't put my name on that. I would suggest to them how to make it better and help it, and say, come back to me after you've done this, but I can't mess with this right now because, you know, it doesn't have what it needs to live up to all the other competition that's going to be surrounded out there. So I do not think about anything in terms of, you know, if there's a vocal in there and if it's got vibrato, and if the vibrato is the way that they wanted it, but it fits what they were trying to do, I'll say, okay, well, that's what they want. Okay, I can do it because it's not, it fits where they were trying to go. It fits the messaging of where the song is going. You know, it might not be the way I would do it, but it fits where they're trying to go. I understand that. Then I'll let that go. But if it's then in there and there's a problem, because that's the only reason why I would reach for anything to try to do something like that, is usually when I'm mixing and things like that, I solve problems first, and then once the problems are solved, then I mix it and put it all together. So that's just the way anybody that is worth their salt is going to approach something like that. It has to be right up, you know, when it's handed over. And
what I'd like to say is, like,
which I could give it better.
A work for hire that has ethics. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
well,
great.
You know, like I said, yeah, you could just take somebody's money and all that, but you know, I have no need to do that at this stage, and most people won't do that because it's for your own good. It represents everybody, you know. So that's why I try to pass that thought process on to you, because it really is, it's a thought process more than anything. It has nothing to do with your technique. The vibrato, the word vibrato, and the words plugins and all them, I like to throw all that crap out there because it's so unnecessary before, well, what do we actually have here? What do we have? What are we listening to right now? You know, and I would, you know, if you sent me something, for example, and I had the multi-track, the first thing I'm going to do is, after I listen to the whole song as a whole, is then I'm going to listen to the individual components to be sure that there's, you know, no problems in there and stuff like that. So that if I need to solve the problems, not the performance, but the problems, you know, if there's a performance issue, then I'm going to send it back and say, okay, the performance, I can do nothing with this right now because the performance is not quite together. Is this what you really want? You know, and if they say yeah, then I'll be okay. Well, I'm just not the right fit for you.
So yeah, Mayat, let's let Mayat come in here. So Mayat, what you've been in so many of these things. Does any of this beg a question that you'd want to ask Khaliq?
First, can you guys hear me?
We can't hear you. Sorry. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, we got you.
Well, I can't hear him. Can you hear him?
Oh, we went out. Yeah,
okay,
we came on for
I
a
got
second
you.
and then went off.
Oh, there he is.
Back, right? Yeah. Sorry about that. Begs to, I got a bunch of stuff written down here, but what I'm hearing, you guys are already spot on. My question would be, Khaliq, what techniques or practices that you can think of where we can work to get an artist out of their head to where they can let go? Is there any training that you can think of that can be done to help? Like if I were to say we're going to work with an artist and they're in their head, and I say, Khaliq, I need to get this artist out of their head. What's some stuff I could go off and do with this artist to get them out of their head?
Well, that's interesting. You know, because we go so way back, we've seen this so many times over and over again. The biggest thing that you have to do with an artist is, first of all, they have to trust you. So they have to trust you so that they can relax and be willing to be open. If they're closed up, you can do all the things and they have all the perfect techniques and everything, but if they don't trust that it's going to work out for them and that they can do it, you'll never get there. So that's the first thing that I do, is approach how to get to that trust factor. Well, they will trust not just me, but they will trust themselves as well, that they can do this. You know, a lot of times people get into their heads because, you know, usually it's a good thing, but it's becoming your own worst enemy. I'm in my own head, for example, when I'm when I'm working and mixing on something, I'm more critical than anybody could ever be on me. So I hate everything I do. And so I have to go through a process to talk myself off the ledge of hating what I do, because I have to also know that, okay, Khaliq, you see it and you hear it and it's finished, mixed and mastered and done in your head, and it's perfect right here at the end of the process, but you're not there yet. So what you have to do is trust yourself to know that you'll get there. So I'll try something and say, okay, I think that'll get me there. And then I'll try it. And then, oh, okay, that's kind of what I had in mind. But then maybe half hour later or, hours later, that ain't right. And then I'll take it off and start something else. But the thing is I tried and trusted myself to get there. But because, and I think I told you guys a long time ago, my mentor, Tommy Vicari, I've seen him work on, and he's a multi-Grammy, Emmy winner, things like that, with the biggest people in the world. But I've seen him work on a mix all day or even a couple of days or whatever. And he'll walk in one day after being working on something 8, 10, 12 hours, and just go into the SSL, pull down all the faders all at once. And I'm like screaming, oh no, why'd you do that? He's like, it ain't right, man. I ain't feeling it. He said, I know what it's supposed to be, but it ain't right. He done tried everything. We done went all around, but he trusted himself to know that, okay, I've tried all these different little Band-Aids. I've put all these little things, patched in all this stuff. It still ain't come together. You know what? Let me just pull it down, start from scratch, because I know how I want it to feel. And then he starts putting it back together little by little based on how he knows it's supposed to feel. And usually that second time, when he trusts himself, it comes together and it's way better than what he had and kept going over with. Because a lot of times, and I would do it too, for example, work on something and fall in love with a part maybe. And you don't want to change it or you don't want to touch it. You're just in love with it. But then you find out later on, after things are just struggling, I just need to hit mute. I don't need to be there. I've gone there so many times, but it took me having to trust myself. Trust yourself that something's telling you something ain't right. You got it in your head and you're not feeling what you should be feeling. What is it? Okay, I done tried everything. Okay, the last thing is, let me just take this thing out. And that's how I would get somebody out of their head from singing and everything, is to get them to try some things that they aren't afraid to try. It's like, okay, we got this part on here and, or we don't have a part yet. We got an idea, an idea of how we want to go and make this thing happen. But for some reason, every time they go out there and get on the mic or whatever, they're in their head and they're not quite getting it, and you're trying to guide them and it just ain't working right. Then I'd have to throw a curveball some kind of way and get them into a different situation. So some of the things that I've done as far as techniques, for example, if they were in the vocal booth recording or whatever, I'll take them out of the vocal booth and bring them into the room with us. Say, you know what? Come on in with us. Let me set up the microphone in here. Let's all be together and just do that. I'm going to get you and everything. We're going to all be in here. We can look into each other's eyes and just groove, If that don't work, I might try something else. Maybe, I used to have some singers that they had to have all the lights out in the studio. And they just had to be in complete darkness and to do their thing. Other times I've had some people that had to have all the lights out in the control room because they didn't want to look through that glass and see nobody looking at them. And you never know what it's going to be, but you have to get them to trust you and then trust themselves internally so that they just kind of let go. Otherwise, they're always second guessing. They're half performing. And see, one of the biggest things is how you practice is how you do it, So when I was telling you, Natasha, like when you were singing that line, one of the things, like I said, that I've learned from watching the singers out here who do this all the time is that they never have to they never have to ramp up. They just do it. You know, it might not be perfect, but it's like when somebody says sing, you know, if you walk into a room and the top record executive is there, or somebody that you know might fund your project or whatever, and they say, let me hear something. You can't say, well, I got to find something and let me warm up and all that. You just got to go. You just got to be ready to go. You know, if you're not ready to go, then you're not ready, you know.
See,
and so that's what I found out.
Yeah, we're back to the Bob Dylan epiphany. Just do it.
Yeah,
you know,
just do it. And that's what Stevie did with Bob.
Yeah.
You know, he got him out of his own head. And Bob Dylan is Bob Dylan. There's one of a kind. Nobody else can be him. Bob Dylan was going in there and in his head trying to sing like, you know, Stephen Perry and all these other great, you know, no way. That's not you, dude. Don't try to do that. He went and tried to do that. And then it took Stevie emulating Bob Dylan so that Bob Dylan could get back to being Bob Dylan and trust himself. It's like, because that's how Quincy and all them cast him to do that. They did the voices and all that to say, yeah, he'd be perfect for it, you know, and they did the same thing with Cyndi Lauper and all that. They knew those kind of, what that approach and tone that they wanted to do, you know. So that's what I say, Ma, is to get to that type of thing, you really got to be, and you got to be quick on your feet. So you got to be ready to pivot. Because if something ain't working, what else? And your mind got to be turning in real time to get to something else to get there. Otherwise, the whole day, the whole session is going to be a waste. You know.
Would you say, both of you, would you say that listening would be a big word in this conversation?
Absolutely. Listening in what sense do you mean?
Well, you're listening to what
further.
they're doing, and then you're in that way. It's a back and forth. You know, what did you just do? Okay, this is what you just did. Now I'm going to make a decision about that. Okay, now the singer's done this. Now I'm going to make a decision about that. Instead of just like, okay, this is a cookie cutter situation. You know, if this singer does this, I'm always going to do this. Well, what I'm hearing all of us say that are in this mindset, that you got to listen. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Listening, deep listening is a big thing. But even more than that, I look at it as deep feeling more than even the listening. You know, when I'm working with vocalists or doing things and all that, I'm constantly closing my eyes because all I want to do is get in tune and in touch with what's going on. I want to feel what they're doing when they're singing certain lines, you know, after I learn what the lyrics are so that I know the intent, I know the story of the song. I want to see a mind movie of that song when I'm hearing it. You know, I want to see lyrics come alive without having to see them written on the paper or on the screen or anything else. I want to see that scenario come alive just because their voice is conveying it to me. I want to feel the bends and everything that are, if I'm supposed to have my emotions bent and feel, you know, like we talked about Whitney, you know, when she was singing I Have Nothing, you know, don't make me close one more door. She got into it because that's close, so you could feel that word just the way she didn't just say make me close one more. She didn't just say it ordinary. She would close one more door. You know, she got into what those lyrics are saying, and I don't want to hurt anymore. You know, all of those things and the way the lyrics come together with the flow of the phrase and all that, they're all intertwined. It's so important, and you can feel that, and you can feel that when it started out, you know, when she started out in the very beginning, and it's kind of like I was saying when I did with Patti LaBelle, and everything started, share my life, all sweet and everything. And then by the time she get into it, it's like this song is built up. It's built a movie, but it's built a feeling in you too, where everybody that hears that song, they feel that from a whole different level because it is guided. You are guiding them with your sonics. You are guiding. And this is the same thing that I do when I'm mixing too. So just like vocalists can do it, just like musicians can do it, when I'm mixing, that's how I mix, to pull people through a song so that they can just hear, but they're forming movies in their mind about what's going on, and is stoking the feelings inside of them just from hearing. That's a magical thing to happen.
And Whitney wasn't over dramatic. I was very impressed with that. Because some people, when they do that, they're over dramatic and you feel like they're coming at you into your face. And with her, you didn't have to feel that. You could just be there with her.
It felt so natural. And when she redid I Will Always Love You, well, that was Dolly Parton's song. Two completely different approaches and everything. But now we associate that with Whitney instead of Dolly, you know, because it felt so natural. It just felt real. And that's what it's about. Same lyrics, but it's how you feel. So I always go from the feeling first before anything, you know, because it can be the same lyrics. It can be the same chord structures, same everything, arrangement and all that, but how somebody approaches it from the feeling point of view, that is the secret sauce.
Yeah, you mentioned, sorry, Matt.
No,
you mentioned Whitney as smoking. Actually, you mentioned smoking. And in the movie now about Whitney, Clive Davis sees her smoking. And he says, you know, what I'm looking at is a Stradivarius out in the rain. How can you do that? But I mean, it's her life.
How can you
her
do
voice,
that too?
You know?
Yeah. She had other things
go
going
ahead.
on too, but go ahead, bro.
When I solo a singer's vocal, like just mute everything, have just the singers or an artist, period. Sometimes that feeling is there. It's like this, you feel every nuance. So there's music and whatever that's interfering with that. And an issue that I keep seeing is artists will feel it, will be like, wow, and all these little nuances the artist is rejecting. So I started saying, okay, we need to get to where we get artists to where they start embracing that stuff. Else there's this fight, because I'm telling you, I've had a whole room full of people loving what the artist just did, feeling it. We go out and do tests, and the audiences say, oh yeah, but the artist is on that pitch perfect stuff that had no emotion, and so there ends up being this fight. And since it's their vocal, it's very you know how personal, y'all know how personal that is. I already know you guys know.
It's like being
how
naked,
personal that is. Yes, they're very exposed, and but it gets in their way. And so when Brad had told me to work with an artist to where they don't judge themselves, let me be their judge, that was an epiphany thing for me. And then Khaliq, when you guys had me doing the stuff, it all started to come together. And so we're sitting here working, we get these takes, and then I'm in an argument with the singer because because they didn't like,
they don't trust you.
Like a singer would crack and we'd go, ooh,
oh yeah,
and the singer would go, ugh. You know, and so there's this fight.
That vocal
but you know why
fry,
that is?
Let me just interject the vocal fry real quick, because this is so pertinent to what you're saying. You know, sometimes a singer will go, and I go, oh, that wasn't clean, that was awful. But yet, because they were going, hey, I love you, you're just like, oh, that's perfect. And the singer's going, no, but that wasn't clean. I got to redo it. I got to get my support going. You know, I got to, no, you know, it's like, this is so pertinent to these podcasts, Mayat. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Let me say one thing too on that note too. When you get, you know, I've been in there as well, where you get into it where they just don't like it, or there's something and it adds character and things like that. The thing that's always usually the problem is, though, they don't have context, you know, because we can imagine what it's going to be like at the end, and all they're doing is laser focusing on what they just did, and they see it as a mistake, not a flavor, you know. And usually what I find when you have some techniques that can be done on things like that, and that's the great thing about now compared to when I started, when we had tape. Now that you got a hard drive, just if you want to make them happy and do some different things to put it in there. You got the hard drive space, but you always keep that one thing that got that little flavor. And then later on, you can demonstrate it to them in context to see, well, here's why I like this. Check this out, you know. And you still got the other one, so that if they're just adamant about it and they don't like it, whatever. But usually 9 times out of 10, when you show it in context of why and how it works, because it adds that little extra thing, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. You know, that's how it ends up working out.
I love that.
Another thing, like you work like working with gospel or soul singers, whatever, and they do all the vibrato. The other thing was the emotion in a straight note, like getting them to sing straight and actually make us feel it with the straight note. That's been mind blowing for some, where they don't have to do all that extra stuff and they simply communicate the idea honestly, as Brad would say, from feel, and you have this straight note that actually communicates with you, and you don't have to put all the colors on. Then you use the coloring for coloring. You know.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because see, there's a very big difference between making a record and performing live, which gospel artists are used to doing both many times, and only the very best ones that know the difference are able to separate them as two different techniques and approaches. You know, it's very different singing in a live setting. You're surrounded by a big vocal choir and all the instruments going live and everything, and you can do all that little extra stuff and everything. But when you're doing a record, it's in time, it's stamped in time to be played that exact same way over and over and over again. So it really needs to have less embellishments and more to just get that message across. The feeling of that message, it usually takes a lot less. You know, I haven't done a lot of gospel stuff, but I've done a few different things. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned about that from gospel was from working with the Rance Allen group. Rance Allen, a gospel legend, rest in peace, was he explained that to me too. So they did all this extra stuff when they're out there live and everything. And he was one of the most amazing vocalists ever. But in the studio, he was very disciplined at simplifying things to just throw the little stuff in every now and then, you know, and then and then he's right back on point, you know. So a lot of people don't know that there's a big difference in that type of approach, especially like when you're used to doing live stuff, you know, every Sunday and everything, and then you get in the studio and you're trying to do that same thing. It's the same thing with gospel musicians and everything. They're the hardest to get them to play something straight. You know, they're ready to do all these, chord progressions, inversions and changes and everything. No, for the studio, we just need this basic foundational thing. Stay on that. You know. And,
do you remember Sam Harris? Khaliq,
yeah,
remember Sam Harris?
Right.
He had that problem with Motown. Well, he was Broadway. And
exactly.
Bill Snyder said, you got to go see Brad because, because I work with microphones and I work with headphones. And, the thing is, when you're on Star Search and you're there for a minute and a half, that just blows everybody's mind. I mean, he could blow your mind. But then when you get, when you're going to listen to this guy for 20 minutes or 40 minutes or 60 minutes, that's way too much icing on the cake. And poor Motown, the record just didn't do well. They really couldn't get him in the groove, which was too bad. But I understood, I mean, the thing about Sam is he's so powerful. His voice is so powerful. He's so used to people going, oh my God, your voice is so loud. It's so powerful. It's so incredible. That, for him to just tell a story, very, very tough,
Very tough, yeah. That's what, speaking of like that, like another example, I think she got better as time went on, was Fantasia. Fantasia was, she's an amazing vocalist and everything, but it was always powerhouse, hit you all the time in the face. She's learned to moderate that over time and everything, but at first everything was like that, and quite frankly, that's why I appreciate, like the Patti LaBelle's and people like that, because Patti can be as sweet and sensitive and delicate as you want, and then put that in there and then ramp it right back in and all that. That's such an art to be able to mix all those things at the appropriate time to play with people's emotions.
And see, in songwriting, you get trained to where you actually write that in there. It's contrast, because you get, once you have something for so much, you get bored of it. Or they'll say if you have steak all the time, like steak for 5 years straight, a basic potato tastes good, But so like you asked about rewriting, so we got deep off into rewriting the lyric, and then we realized the melody needed to be we needed to go back and rewrite that melody, work on that just as much as we did the lyric, and it had just never it took years for that to even cross our minds, and we need to go back and really rewrite the melody and try stuff as much with that as we did with the lyric.
it's a constant thing, man. It's a constant thing, like when I told you guys about Michael and them rewriting "We Are the World," which he had already wrote the basic lyrics. But what I found out too, even from watching that thing and then some of the stuff on the internet when he passed, is that his lyrics went through so many iterations before it got to the studio the day that we did the tracking date, And then once we were in there and they were doing it, they were talking about, changing little things like from "there's a chance we're taking, we're saving all their lives" because it was about starving kids, to changing it to "there's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives," because the song is called "We Are the World," not "I Am the World," So keeping that focus
Or they are the world.
intentionally. Or they are. So it wasn't an us and them situation. They wanted it always to be inclusive. So the little things that had to keep being tweaked over and over and over again. They had African chant at one time where it was Shala Shalinge. It wasn't really African, but they wanted it to sound like that. But then by the end of the thing, at the end of the song, when they were singing "We Are the World, We Are the Children," it used to be Shala Shalinge as a background. They took that out and changed it to "Our World, Our Children," because that just made more sense to keep it in. It said, don't make it us and them. This is not, us and them. It's our world and our children, so that everybody's inclusive, to keep that message. We are the world.
You guys were a great team. You guys were just such a great team, the whole thing. And once it's done, it's done. And then I know that's another question that comes up sometimes is, well, when do you know it's done?
For me, it's never done, because I hate everything. I hate everything I do. I have to admit it. At some point, I just have to say, okay, I have to tell myself, okay, Khaliq, enough is enough. You did your best, but I always feel like I could do more.
Thanks, David.
And then I just have to just stop it, And the funny thing is I find that most people are like that too. That they're always seeking to just keep making things better, but at some point you just have to have some kind of self-discipline to say, okay, you've done enough on it. You've tried everything. Just put it out there now, and then let it be what it's going to be.
Yeah, I can't imagine the Beatles going back and doing their old records. In 1965, them going back and doing. McCartney redoing "Yesterday." I'm not going to do that. It's done.
Khaliq, are you going to do any more in-person camps or anything like that, Khaliq?
Yeah. I actually have thought about. I'm definitely going to be doing some virtual events very, very soon. In fact, because a lot of people have asked me for that, but I'm also thinking about doing some live events as well too. I'm just going to see take the temperature on it and see what the what the need is and the want is for it, and if there's enough people that might want something like that to happen, I'm gonna do it.
And I'm showing you guys. Here's Khaliq's offer, because of today's show.
Yeah. This is for friends of Brad.
Friends of Brad.
Usually I charge $1,500 for a VIP day. So I started thinking, well, how can I make up $1,500 and make it be okay? So I said, okay, well, I'll do a group coaching. I'll accept 15 people for $100. $100 each to get in there. You can submit your songs or whatever. It'll be first come, first served, but I'll stay on and get it. Some people might just want to get on and just listen to how I take things apart and whatever, but I'm gonna just get on there as long as it takes. Disassemble your stuff, see how best I can help you with not just your vocals, because the vocals is one thing, but how should the vocals slot into the music? What might be causing some issues if you got some stuff you're about ready to release and you just want an additional set of ears to look it over, listen to it, and analyze what's going on. I want to do that, and I think that's a good trade-off. That way I don't lose anything out of it, but everybody can get a great benefit, and then it's not too big. A small group of 15 people, I think that becomes a win-win situation for everybody. Very affordable and doable, but at the same time, it makes it worth it for me to do as well. So does that sound good to you, Brad?
Yeah, it does. So I'm thinking, people who watch the podcast who are not here, How would that work for them, or would it work for them? I know you've got a clock on here.
Yeah, I was only going to make this for for 24 hours, but if you need me to extend it, I was thinking that you were going to have a lot of people on here, but if more people get to your replay or whatever, and you need me to extend it for a couple of days, I can do that, and then either I'll extend it for a couple of days, or to whoever gets to the first 15 people, then it'll automatically close out.
Okay. We really appreciate it, and I don't want it to be taken advantage of in
Actually,
any way.
what I can do is I'll give how long does it take you to edit your videos and get your replay
I'll
up?
try
How
to
many
get
days
this
do you
right
think you
out.
would need?
Yeah, since there's a clock on this, I'll try to get this out tomorrow.
Okay, that'll be good then. Well, then I'll leave it up at least 48 or maybe 72 hours or something like that. I'll leave it up for a few days or whatever, and then like you said, just get people into there, or if you want to email your folks and just let them know to snag a slot, then that's fine. I'll put the link into the chat, and yeah, you got it. So that's the link right directly to the shopping cart.
Okay. Well, I know Natasha's always got something. Can we close it out with something simple, Natasha, or where are you at? Oh, we lost your voice for a moment.
Was I not am I muted now?
There you go.
I'm not muted
we got
now.
You, yeah.
Oh God, sorry, I was coughing and I thought I'd muted myself. Okay. I mean, this is just for anyone. So basically, it's the questions about the microphones. So Khaliq mentioned a little bit ago about the Shure SM7B, and that it adds some darkness. What I'm trying to understand, obviously, as a beginner, is why would you not use a high fidelity microphone like a Telefunken, and then you've got a pure signal, then you can add whatever you want to it? Why do people do this where they get a microphone like that alters what you can work with on screen? I just find that confusing.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned too, like I use Michael as the perfect example. His engineer Bruce Sweeting had all the best microphones in his own personal collection, so he tried the most high fidelity. He had Telefunkens and Neumanns and all the best microphones or whatever. But Michael had a unique. He was uniquely challenging, because when Michael sings, he also performs. So what happened was, when they was first recording Michael, it would record everything. Michael makes mouth noises. He, like when he's doing that and all that little stuff, and he's making rhythm while he's singing, mixed all within there. He's also dancing on the floor and everything. You can pick up those microphones, pick up his shoes and all that stuff, and it ruins the recording because it's too sensitive. So he went to what's a dynamic mic, and the Shure mic, or a mic like this one, which is a dynamic mic, the RE20, they reject a lot of sounds, and they're, when the source is closer to it, all the external stuff is pretty much shut out and just catches what's in front of them. So that's why you might use something like that too. Plus, they're a little bit darker sounding. So Michael had a higher, thinner voice or whatever, so that darkness balances his voice out, and that's why you might use something like that as opposed to a real high fidelity mic. This is a dynamic mic, and the Shure is a dynamic mic, and the other mic I'm using on here, these are all dynamic mics, which are less sensitive than cardioid condenser mics, because condenser mics they pick up all the frequencies from high to low, super sensitive and everything. And sometimes that's just too much fidelity to fit for what the voice is and what the music is, Now, usually most people will start with a high quality mic at first, but you got to always be ready to pivot depending on the situation. That's why I say I always go in and listen to the vocalist first in the room with my own ears to hear how they sound, hear where any problems are. Am I hearing any weird S sounds? Or is their voice thin? Is it high pitched piercing? When they sing in different registers, does it change and have different weird timbres when they go high, mid, and low parts of their voice range and everything? Do I need to choose a different microphone than I had planned on choosing based on that? I usually always have a couple microphones ready just in case, based on that informed situation,
So singers realize what Khaliq is saying here is, again, content. Give him the content, and he'll figure out what microphone to use, what effects he's going to use. Is that right, Khaliq? Give you the content. In other words, you're going back to the thought of, let's get the music first, and then let's talk about the rest later. Is that right?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example too. I mean, sometimes that's not possible to even know what it is. There's many times, and like I said, I just do exclusively mixing these days. But when I was recording, many days I'll show up and it could be an artist that I've never worked with before, or somebody will come in and I don't even know we're doing vocals that day, but a bunch of people will come in and say, yeah, we're going to do some vocals today, so set up a mic real quick. I have no idea what we're going to be doing, who's going to be singing or whatever, what they sound like. So I just grab something that I know is going to work in most situations, and then before we start recording, though, I'm listening to them in the room before we do anything. Then I'll call that mic up and listen to them and say, you know what? And I always have extra mics there that I can, sometimes I would put two mics together and just have them ready to go right away because I didn't know. I had one mic hanging down and another mic underneath it, or have them side by side, some kind of way where I can record both mics at the same time and see which one seems a little bit better, and then, I can mute the other one if one's better than the other, and then make a decision based on that in real time. But many times I don't have a clue until I hear what's going on in the room.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
I just recently went to help a rapper at his house. We ended up, it was a cheap microphone. So here's this beat up. It has a lot of hi-hat content, and the hi-hats were moving. The S's in his vocals, when we had his vocal in there, the hi-hats, I didn't even hear him grooving anymore. The S's were coming at me. I ended up manually taking care of his S's and T's to where they were reduced down to where they were soft and they were there, but the hi-hats were doing this and his S's were down here. If he had a mic locker and I could get a mic where the S's were automatically down here, it would just work out. But since it wasn't, I just did it. Now, if you then take a singer who's singing like, say, sweetheart, and got all that stuff in there, you might want that clarity in that stuff, and you might get a microphone that has all that stuff. But even then, in the room, say it's an omnidirectional microphone, and it's picking up too much stuff in the room, that's a problem. So then you might have to get a cardioid microphone or switch the pattern to where it's rejecting that stuff and start treating. It's not just a one mic does everything and just, even if once you throw in somebody like, for that matter. Yeah, once you throw in somebody like, say, Khaliq, he could come in and make a mic sound different and do stuff to fix stuff. What the beauty of some of the stuff I learned was, if we can get it from the beginning to where we ain't got to do all that fixing stuff, it's less work for us. We can get things moving. But I'm used to actually working with crap. So I'm used to $100 mic. I'm telling you, AT2020 USB
you are paying
microphone.
Your dues, my friend.
Oh, yeah. AT2020 microphone, USB, in Guitar Center, whole bunch of people around. Garrett is rapping. I love that recording. I hear the cash register going off in the background in the recording, and it sounds like it's part of the the scene. Like it actually added to it. So it's like, but it's hip hop. This isn't something
that's
like
right,
Whitney. Yeah, this isn't Whitney Houston. I will always love you, perfectly. Whatever. Nah, it added to the character. So it's not a one. It's not a one thing. Anyway,
it depends on the context.
Yeah, that's my spiel. Anyway.
This brings up a great question. I've never asked any of the podcasts. So, sometimes when you hear a singer on the radio, it's that weird thing about their voice that seems to capture everybody. And like, I know Khaliq's answer, I think, but it's like, I guess you have to be careful. Like if they've got some stutter in their voice or they've got some weird sibilant or something that, you might think, well, and I think you already talked about, Khaliq, you don't want to take that out, but how do you decide? That's a tough question.
Well, for me, what I do is, like I said, however they sound and perform, it's about the performance first. I want to keep the authenticity of who they are. And I only solve problems. If it's a problem, then I'll tackle it. So like you said, some people will have that SC sound to their voice naturally. So I will listen and say, well, that's still part of their voice, but it's got a little bit of a problem here because it's gonna poke out, it's gonna irritate too much. So I need to tame it a bit, but it's still part of what their voice is. If I get too aggressive on that stuff, it's gonna make their voice sound dull. It's gonna make them sound like they have a lisp. It's gonna make it's just gonna be weird. So you can only do enough to solve the problem to make it kind of an invisible problem. But the thing is still there, but it's just reduced enough where it doesn't become an issue. If somebody has too many S's and things like that or whatever, I'm going to right away be thinking, okay, can I put a de-esser on? Can I maybe run it through tape to shave some of that off and let it do what tape naturally does? Or could I, use some kind of, I wouldn't want, some people they go through buzzwords and they're ready to use clippers, for example, to just chop up the things. Well, no, I wouldn't do that. But why? Because clippers add harmonics. They stored it up and they put the upper harmonics more, so that's going to make it worse. A lot of people don't think stuff like that. They overuse compressors, because they don't know how to set the attack and release settings to catch things and get out the way or move, So there's a lot of things that go on to approach problems and everything. And the danger with some of this information that you get out here is, like I said, it's snapshot information. It works for somebody in one snapshot, but it may not work for you because you may have a whole different, you do have a whole different scenario. You got a different song, different lyrics, a different key, different speed, different frequencies going on, and different source material all around it. So those are just points of departure. You got to always remember that. It's just a point of departure, and many times people get kind of lazy and start out and just put some basic things on that think it should work every time, and that's the lazy man's way out of it.
Well, you
just sorry, Matt. You just made the best. If you were a dictionary, and I said, what does the word editing mean? You just gave the best example I've ever heard. Why edit? What is editing for? It's to remove the irritants, but not destroy the project. To not make it your way, or but to just make it so we love hearing it 10 times, 30 times, 40 times, 50 times. Those are great. I'm gonna definitely post that.
I like that, and I also make it. It's just like make it akin to the same thing. Editing a book. You send your stuff to a book editor, it just makes it better. Gets rid of all the little parts that ain't in there that's getting over wordy, something that's being said repetitively or whatever. Editing a movie, getting rid of scenes that are just, that doesn't need to be in there. It's not moving things forward, So editing is it's a good thing at the source, because then that's the less you have to do on the back end, So I will, a lot of people, because they don't use hardware anymore, they're kind of forced to do a lot of things on the back end now. A lot of people don't know. They think that when you put plugins on in a DAW, that you're putting it on the front end and not realizing it's on the back end. It's affecting the thing afterwards, and it's not doing anything in front unless you've got like a universal audio or one of those other things where you can put something in line in front and record it and capture it, but not everything can do that. Most people don't know things like that.
When you ask, how do we know, for me, like there's this rapper named Cool G Rap from back in the day. He had a lisp. And if, like when Khaliq said go out and listen to him, if you didn't know that Cool G Rap had this lisp and that was part of the character of what he does, you'd be sitting there trying to fix that stuff. And it's actually part of the attraction to him, because the dude was rapping and we were feeling it, and we laughed and enjoyed the lisp. He's just like that. And I'd be swinging that. And,
right.
Yeah. And we were entertained by that. So if you take it out or reduce it, you reduce our entertainment of it.
And it creates trademarks as well.
Yeah.
Like that's his that's one of his trademarks.
That's why he stood out.
People say, how can I be different? Well, be yourself and keep doing it, and you will create a trademark.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Kevin Cronin of REO Speedwagon talked about removing his R's, because classical people say you should never go. And I said, but Kevin, that's part of your trademark. I mean, that's one of the things you do. You take the sound and you riff it. So I don't think, and you don't need to. Classical people, they don't use microphones, so they have to think differently. Ers don't project, right? They don't carry throughout the room. So there's a practical reason they don't use them. But for us to use microphones, man, we didn't change it. We're changing that.
Yeah, you're right. So, guys, I guess what
I was gonna say we taken up a lot of your time, Khaliq.
Now hold on, Khaliq. Hold
though.
on, Khaliq. Before you leave, thank you for all the stuff that you've taught me, all the time you've spent. Would you please say hello to your wonderful wife for me?
I sure will, for sure. Yeah, she asks about you all the time too. When was the last time you talked to Maud and everything? I was like, yeah, we touch base every now and then on that.
Maud is putting into work the stuff that you, Brad, Dave Isaac, Dave Hampton, that y'all have been teaching me. Maud has been putting that stuff to test to see if y'all knew what y'all were talking about.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Think about I gotta get my boy Dave Isaac back on with me too, man, and get Dave Isaac back on here and do something soon.
I asked him if he considered doing the podcast. He hasn't responded yet, so we'll see.
Okay.
I told him you were doing it today. So.
Oh, cool.
I've been Dave's been helping me. Dave Isaac has been helping me.
Yeah, he helped you with Olga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I talked to Dave plenty. Like
Dave ain't no joke, man. And
No.
we were a great team, boy. We made some major noise and damage out there.
I'll bet.
Yes.
Yep.
I love you guys.
Yeah, man.
So
But that's cool.
Thank you, bro.
So let me, Brad, let me just mention one more time, all of you, it was a great time getting on here. I would love it if you want to become a part of my Music Creators Club community. Help me spread the word too, because I intend on growing this fast and big and furious to the benefit of everybody. So go to school.com, that's SKOOL.com/Music Creators Club /about.
And you got the content to back it up.
Yes, and more is coming. I'm building it out. I'm adding more and more stuff. There's a lot of good free stuff in there as well. And it'll be very helpful. I'd love to get you guys. Let me know if it's worth doing this thing, Brad, that I'm doing for your students. If we get to 15 and they want to do it, then I'll definitely do it. If there's not enough interest, then I'm going to pull it too, and I'm going to just go back to my $1,500 for one person.
Well, it's got to make sense. Whatever you do, it's got to make sense.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys.
All right.
Wonderful.
Take care, Khaliq.
All right, guys.
Just for everybody, for the podcast, the next guest will actually be a singer in December, and she works a lot. She sings a lot. So the two things we're going to talk about is how did she get in that position where she gets so many gigs, and then how does she handle that? So that's going to be a little bit off topic, but again, in the topic. And then I'm going to not do as many podcasts for a while because I'm going to be chopping this stuff up so that people can not have to listen to 4 hours to get what they want, right? So everybody be watching for that. And of course, I'll keep you updated, Khaliq and Mayat, on everything that I do. I know, Natasha, you're following us, so you'll I'll be sending out emails of the cut up pieces and so forth, and you'll be the star of some of them, I'm sure. Okay. All right, you guys, you have a great night.
All right, everybody have a great night. Catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.